Tonight in Texas, political careers on the line, big names, high stakes. John Cornyn versus Ken Paxton. Paxton won the president's endorsement. Will Republican voters now follow? Plus the race to replace Paxton as Texas Attorney General. On the right, Mays Middleton versus Chip Roy. On the left, Nathan Johnson versus Joe Jaworski. Democrats in Dallas will also decide, keep Julie Johnson in Congress or send Colin Allred back to Washington. In Houston, a political generation gap. Veteran Congressman Al Green fighting to hold off freshman Congressman Christian Menifee. Plus, runoff results in key races for Congress, Lieutenant Governor, and the Railroad Commission. Polls are closing across the state, and this is where Texas turns for election 2026. It is election night in Texas. I'm Jason Whiteley. Thanks for being here with us on this special episode of our Y'all-Tix runoff election coverage here tonight. Polls closed across most of the state about 7 or 8 minutes ago here for this crucial runoff election. The Republican nomination for U.S. Senate front and center right now for so many people across the state and a lot of people across the country also watching this. Attorney General Ken Paxton trying to unseat longtime incumbent John Cornyn. This race is really a battle between two factions of the Republican Party of Texas. Paxton represents the MAGA side of the party. Lots of grassroots activists here support him. Cornyn represents the Reagan-Bush Republicans that once dominated this state. We have crews at both of those campaigns tonight. Jobin Puneker is with Paxton in Plano in Collin County. Teresa Woodard is with Cornyn in downtown Austin, where the senator is only holding a media press conference a little later this evening rather than a traditional watch party. And our team of Texas political experts also in studio here with us. Matt Engel next to me here from the Lone Star Project, Andrea Coker from the North Texas Commission, and Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram joining us in studio as well. And we expect to start seeing the early numbers. We're already seeing them across some counties right now, but let's go ahead and check in with Jason Wheeler on the big board. Jason, I'm just walk it over to you to see what things look like here, man.
You have a shorter walk this time.
I have a much shorter walk, and we're already getting results here. So
we are. Sometimes
tell us what we're seeing.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting results at this hour from early voting. Sure. It doesn't always work out like that, so it's almost a surprise when it starts populating like it should. So we're seeing just a fraction of those come in right now. This, of course, is looking at the marquee race that we're watching in these runoffs, which is for U.S. Senate on the GOP side, Ken Paxton versus the incumbent John Cornyn here. You see right here the total number of votes in right now, 237,000 or so. We know that in early voting alone, there was something like 850,000 votes. So this is about a quarter of that early vote that we're seeing right now. But you can start to see, you know, at least how things are looking in the early going. Ken Paxton running away with it so far. But look at all this white we have in the map here. A lot has left to be filled in. We're really watching specific places for this race, though. Dallas County, John Cornyn narrowly up in the primary. He took that by 18 percentage points. Really? Dallas County. Tarrant County, he's behind Ken Paxton by a wide margin. He took that county by about 17 percentage points the last time around. And then we go down to Williamson County, just north of Austin there, just north of Travis County. Ken Paxton also opening up a big lead there. I think Cornyn pulled that last time by about 16% over Paxton. So these do not look good if you're John Cornyn. But again, we're very much in the early going here. Still a lot of vote to come in as we go through the evening. And, you know, Cornyn can only hope that he can turn these numbers around as we get more of these totals in.
We've made the mistake early and many times talking about
absolutely.
Whether someone's going to be, you know, running away with it or not.
You can never read too much into it.
Not this early.
You know, this much of the map left to be filled in. But it is an interesting, a little bit of an interesting trend that we're seeing, especially when you start to see Dallas County, that's 50% of the estimated vote, 57% in Tarrant County. It shortens that runway of how you can make up those, that kind of a discrepancy as you go through the night between, how he's performing versus Paxton.
And so that's the biggest race in the state right here. We have a number of other races. Let's go down the Republican side here. The Republican race for Texas Attorney General, the second biggest race for Republicans in Texas tonight.
Mays Middleton, you've no doubt seen his commercials. He has spent a lot of money running ads, and at least in the very early going again here, about 250 250,000 votes in so far. He has pulled ahead of Chip Roy there, and you can see the green across the map here. This is a little bit deceiving here. When we put on heat, you can see that these counties very light green. So in some of these, he just has a small lead over Chip Roy, but a lead nonetheless. Still a lot left to be filled in on this as well, though, and no doubt he's doing well down in this area where he is from,
Sure.
Mays Middleton. So we'll watch that as the night goes as well. Railroad Commissioner is another one. They don't really deal with railroads. We still call it that here in Texas. It's all about oil and gas.
Yeah.
This is the incumbent here, has some big names behind him, including the governor out campaigning for him, Jim Wright there. In the early going here, though, he is behind Beau French, who a very far-right MAGA candidate who is a controversial figure here in Texas, and he's pulling ahead in the early going there. Another one that's been watched really closely here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is this one for District 33. This was one of those districts that got carved up.
Sure.
When Republicans went back and redrew the maps, some Democrats were sent fleeing their districts to try to find a district to be in. District 33 has been formed. It's a Democratic stronghold. It's expected to be. Julie Johnson was from District 32. Colin Allred served in that same district before her. They are facing off in this runoff, and in the early going here, he is ahead by about 9 points. I think he took it by, he was ahead by, I think, 13 when we were in the primary.
I think
so
it's 11 points, but this is 2/3 of the vote right here.
Right.
So this is the early vote in Dallas County, and Allred way out front with a lead right
So
now.
again, there you start to think about that runway. Where do you
Sure.
make up those votes when that runway is shortening on you pretty quickly?
And let's look at the Democrats running for Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor
We'll get
as well.
that now. Nathan Johnson having a good night in the very early going here. This is on this side, we got 106,000 votes in. Let me check what my record was on that. Democrats this time in early voting had about 350,000 votes. So this is about less than a third of the vote in, but that is a substantial lead over the former mayor of Galveston, Joe Jaworski there, who has run for office several times, including for this one unsuccessfully in the past. So whoever gets that one will take on whoever gets this one on the Republican side. And an interesting thing, we'll have a new attorney general here in Texas for the first time in a dozen years because Ken Paxton is leaving that office.
Lieutenant Governor's race.
Lieutenant Governor, not close in the early going at all.
This is interesting.
Vicki Goodwin running away with it, the rep there from Travis County. And this is a union leader, maybe not as much name recognition, Marcos Velez here.
But you would think he could get the turnout here too, that maybe he's working the union membership.
Right, and he made it into this runoff. That wasn't by accident either. But again, a lot of vote left to come in tonight.
Right.
Again, we're still at about less than a third of the early vote in right now.
And then of course
17%.
we're watching what happens in Houston tonight. Christian Menifee, Al Green as well.
That one I don't think we do have no. Oh wait, no, we don't. There we go. Yeah, we don't have numbers on that one yet. That one hasn't come in just yet. We will see this board really start to populate probably in the next 15 minutes or so as all of these counties start pouring their numbers in to the Secretary of State's office, and we expect to get a much more fulsome picture of where things are headed as we go through the night. But again, that right there is the headline, the surprise just in the very early going. I think a lot of people thought that this one might be a lot tighter, even with that Trump endorsement for Ken Paxton, because it came in late. It was on the second day of early voting. There had
1 week ago tonight.
Yeah, there'd already been 150, 200,000 votes cast by the time the president came out and endorsed Paxton.
Yeah.
You remember there was only about 28,000 votes that separated them in the primary. So we'll see if that endorsement ends up paying off for Paxton tonight. It looks like in the early going, though, he's doing very well.
Yeah, indeed. So let's check in now with Teresa Woodard. She's in Austin tonight with the Cornyn campaign. They're not physically out there yet, but of course they're clearly watching the same numbers we are, Teresa.
Yeah, and Jason, it is quiet from the Cornyn campaign, as you can imagine, at this hour. Of course, we want to stress it is very early, a long way to go when it comes to counting the results that are coming in at this hour. But John Cornyn is foregoing, yet again, a big watch party. So I am just in the hallway of a hotel in Austin, and in a room to the next to me, it's filled with members of the media and members of the national press here as well, to watch John Cornyn come come out and address the media after the results become official. He decided not to have a big party. Here's the thing, back in March 3rd, the night of the primary, it was the same setup. He did not have a watch party. He had reporters just in a room. And his campaign sort of hinted, hey, we're going to save the party for runoff night. Well, tonight there is no party. I don't want to read too much into that about what they're expecting, but we will simply say it is quiet here right now. The one thing that nobody quite knows how to predict. Remember, in March, this was really a three-man race. You had Senator John Cornyn, you had Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and you had Congressman Wesley Hunt. Hunt did not make it to the runoff, but Hunt still drew 293,000 votes on March 3rd. So the question is, what do those voters do? Are they going to swing to John Cornyn, or are they going to swing to Ken Paxton? Are they going to stay home? We don't know exactly what those voters are going to do, and they could clearly make a heavy impact on the results that we are waiting for tonight. As for what John Cornyn did today, we know that he did interviews across the state with media members, including talking to WFAA's Jason Whiteley, saying to Jason he feels optimistic and felt good, in his words, about the turnout that he was seeing in places across Texas where he did well in the March primary. We know that the senator had lunch with his family, and now he is just huddled with his team and waiting to see these numbers come in. We will continue to follow things from here in Austin. For now, though, I'm going to send it back to the WFAA studios with Jason Whiteley.
All right, Teresa, thanks for that. We'll be checking in with you a little later. Let's start with just clear reaction to this. And Andrea, I want to start with you. I mean, this doesn't look close at the early going here.
You very generously said that it wasn't over yet, but I might beg to disagree.
You think so?
I think it was over at 7:01. If Cornyn didn't come out with a huge lead in the Dallas County, Tarrant County, Harris County, then I don't see a way for him to make it up.
And that's what people close to his campaign were telling me too. We've got to have a strong showing in the major metros in order to have a shot here.
Yeah.
And we just have not seen that with the early
He's not
vote
winning
release.
counties he won in March.
Wow.
It feels like the election was over on Tuesday last week.
Matt, what do you think?
Oh, I think she's exactly right. I think this was over as soon as the polls closed and the first results came out. I think Cornyn saw it coming. I think that's
You think so?
That's why he doesn't have a watch party, and that's probably why Trump endorsed. They probably did see this coming. I'm on record. A year and a half ago, I said John Cornyn was a dead senator walking.
You told us that in the studio, I believe.
And it's all come to a head here. There's a sadness to it. He's had a distinguished career. I wish he wouldn't have spent the last year humiliated himself, but he's got 7 months to make good for Texas.
What do you expect to see here? I mean, what's next, Bud? Because the big question was whether the president's endorsement was really going to carry that much weight, and we saw what happened with Thomas Massie in Kentucky, Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, and wow, these numbers here are showing up for the president as well.
Well, you probably saw the setup today for the big no-holds-barred fight on the White House lawn, and what we're coming up on is a big no-holds-barred fight for the U.S. Senate race in Texas. You know, we're starting right away. The Paxton campaign already started bashing Tallarico. You know, it will be a very bitter, angry, ugly campaign by the time it gets to November. Both sides know their candidate has flaws. They're going to try to drive down the other side's vote with as much negative advertising as they can. They're going to try to discourage voters and make them stay home.
And we've already seen that one ad that came out from Ken Paxton against James Tallarico. It was a strong ad. I mean, it's no surprise here. Tallarico has not faced the Republican machine yet, and we've seen other Democrats, Beto O'Rourke, Matt, who waited too long to attack Ted Cruz in 2018. Does Tallarico make that same mistake, do you think?
I don't think so. I think that you'll start to see them make contrast right away. I mean, there's a big difference in this race. I mean, James Tallarico is a person who has a real, legitimate, mainstream record. He's fought tough fights before, and he's a man of faith, which really does separate some perception of Democrats. I mean, we've got a situation where you got faith versus fraud, and I think he can deliver that.
Well, you said to start differentiating himself or drawing a contrast. Is Tallarico going to hit hard? Because we know Paxton and the Republican machine, they will hit hard. This first ad that came out, they hit hard.
Well, Paxton can't afford to make this about issues, and can't afford to make this about character because he loses both of those things. He's a straight-up criminal. I don't have to say it. You had Matt Shaheen on TV saying he was unfit for office. You had Jeff Leach, another Republican state representative, laying out that he failed the family of sex offenders by going soft on the offender. I mean, what James Tallarico can do is just repeat over and over again what Republicans have said about Ken Paxton over the last 6 months.
And then, Andrea, let me ask you quick. Go ahead. You want to add to that?
I think he's incredibly right. We are going to see probably the ugliest campaign we've ever seen coming in November. But the ad that Ken Paxton started running this week was not about November. It was about telling John Cornyn voters, this is over, I've got this, you should probably stay home. And from what we're seeing, it worked.
Wow. We have a lot more ahead here. The night's only getting going, but we have seen these early numbers, and they are really, showing up pretty well for Ken Paxton, for Mays Middleton, for Colin Allred. Republicans and Democrats both have political careers on the line tonight. A lot more ahead here in just a moment. Welcome back to our special Yolitics coverage of the runoff elections this Tuesday night, May 26th. There is a big story already taking shape here. Ken Paxton running away right now with the early vote against John Cornyn. Let's check in with Ken Paxton. His party, at least, Jobin Punniker, is in Plano, where the Paxton campaign is going to hold a watch party here shortly. Jobin?
Well, Jason, you know, if you want any clue into the excitement that's here at this watch party in Plano, the doors opened at 6 o'clock, and there was a line of people wanting to get into this building here. Every now and then you'll hear clapping, you'll hear cheering, and that's because some of the returns are showing up on the big screen here right in front of people. So there are a lot of people focused on the returns, focused on their drinks, focused on their food as these speeches begin. Now, this is being hosted by the Lone Star Liberty PAC. There's about 200 people here, probably closer to 300. People we spoke with, they are encouraged about tonight. Some of them say this is going to be a very short night. We're looking at some of the early returns. It looks probably closer that way. And, you know, in talking with some of these voters, they say one thing we noticed is people were more eager to talk about what Senator Cornyn did not do for them versus what the Attorney General could do for them in his possible new role. Now, adjectives that we heard in talking with some of these voters who just voted for Ken Paxton. They said he's formidable. They say he's a fighter. They say he will not back down. Now, the president's endorsement was a big deal. In talking with about 5 or 6 people here, they said the president's endorsement was important to them, and the fact that happened in the 11th hour was the icing on the cake for them. Now, as you've said before, and you've reported this, that Paxton had no public events tonight or today. He has not done a whole lot of media. He's here in Collin County. Keep in mind, he still has a home here in Collin County. Some of his biggest supporters are here in Collin County, and some of his loudest detractors are also here in Collin County. Now, we're here at this event, again, put on by the Liberty PAC. There's going to be a speech here tonight at some point. He's expected to speak at 9 o'clock, and we have probably 2 or 3 speakers just before that. Jason, we'll take it back to you at the studio.
All right, Jobin, thanks for that. He's going to speak in 90 minutes or so here, which he may speak before that, guys, if these results continue here. We do have some more results out of Harris County, I believe, that we can show you for a number of races. We also have the Democratic Attorney General's race. The race to replace Ken Paxton on the Democrat side. This is Nathan Johnson and Joe Jaworski. Again, you know what, this is a little surprising to me right here, because Matt Jaworski didn't have any cash at all, and Nathan had the money, and it seems like maybe the bigger network here. This is closer than I anticipated it would be.
I think it's about what we would expect, just because of where the size of the support is. You've got Dallas County in North Texas, much bigger. Nathan Johnson is much more broadly known in North Texas than Joe Jaworski is in Houston. So I think this is more a play of just the geography of the state and the relative geographic strengths of the candidates.
And while we're waiting on some more numbers to come in, if we can go ahead and go through some of these full screens here, we have the Republican race for Texas Attorney General. Mays Middleton was out early in the lead there against Chip Roy. There's still a lot more ballots to be counted here, but Mays Middleton so far with 43% reporting statewide. He's at 57% of the vote. The same thing we saw Jason Wheeler was showing us a moment ago in the break here with the Railroad Commission. Beau French, the MAGA candidate there, was leading statewide as well with 53% of the vote. This is 54% there. This is really shaping up to be, guys, here a huge night for MAGA and another feather in the cap for Trump. I'm thinking here, Bud.
Well, this is really something. Trump has given a voice and given force to this movement in Texas that has really been frustrated for 30 years. This didn't start with Trump. The grassroots, they've been trying to overthrow the Bush family. They went and they actually campaigned against George W. Bush when he was running for president. The religious right in Texas, the Christian right, which now is aligned with the Patriot MAGA movement. They have tried to gain control of the Republican Party, take over the whole apparatus, take over the convention, actually throw candidates out of the party that don't adhere to their beliefs. And this is the big night. This is the coming out party. This is when they get rid of what they think is the last vestige of the Bush regime.
It is, Andrea, the last vestige. I mean, besides John Cornyn, there's no one else who really carries the Reagan-Bush mantra like he does. This is the last one. The governor doesn't do that anymore.
There's not. And I was at the Texas GOP convention in 2014 and saw John Cornyn get booed. This is not a new development that they've decided he's not the grassroots hero that they wanted. This is just the first time he's had an opponent with the money and the clout to take him down in a primary.
What surprises do you see here tonight on the Republican side, Andrea?
I don't see a single surprise.
Really?
This has been coming. Now, if this was a general election populace voting on this, we would be talking different. But the Republican Party has been fantastic at getting rid of people they don't like through the runoff mechanism. I think it's 6% of incumbents who get taken to a runoff survive. One of them is Ken Paxton, who survived.
Mm-hmm.
People forget less than half of the voters wanted him to continue 4 years ago, and we're watching a coronation to the Senate nomination.
He defeated Louis Gohmert, the former Supreme Court judge.
George P. Bush,
George
Eva
P. Bush.
Guzman had to go to a runoff and then cleaned up in the runoff. So if every person who voted in the runoff 4 years ago voted for him today, he won already.
And Matt, as a Democrat, when you see the momentum that Republicans have right now in Texas, the MAGA wing of the Republican Party in Texas, does it give you hope or heartburn?
Absolutely hope, because this is not an expression of Texas Republicans. This is Texas Republicans becoming national Republicans. They've turned in their Texas card. The Texas brand is off. They're owned by Trump. They define him. Trump's unpopular. It gives Democrats a chance to earn voters' trust that they didn't have a chance with before. The onus is on Democrats to fill that gap. There's going to be a lot of fair-minded people in Texas who've been defaulting to Republicans for many years. They're going to give Democrats a look, not just James Tallarico, but some other ones. And it's on us to make ourselves available to them. I think Texas is ready to fire Republicans. The question is, are they ready to hire Democrats? And we'll see.
Andrew, what do you think about that? You've seen a couple of these.
I've seen a couple of these. I don't know that James Tallarico and his, what I'm guessing will amount to $150 million spent by the time it's all said and done, will elect James Tallarico to Senate. But I believe it's going to elect a lot of people to a lot of offices down ballot.
Down ballot for the Democrats. There's a number of other races we're watching. Colin Allred and Julie Johnson is another big race that we are watching here in Dallas County. Two friends, former friends, who got into a bitter campaign here. We're going to check in with them at their watch parties here in just a few moments. First, let's take a quick break. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the runoff election here tonight on May 26th. It's taken a minute right after the holiday here, but voters have come out and made their statements, not only on the Republican side, which we've been talking a lot about here over the past few weeks, also on the Democratic side. Dallas Democrats with that big decision whether to send Julie Johnson back to Congress for another term or re-elect Colin Allred. Let's go now to the Allred campaign. Kevin Reese is there with them tonight. Kevin.
Yeah, we are at his campaign watch party. This is at the Communication Workers of America, their union hall on the east side of Dallas. It certainly looks like they will be having a celebration here at some point this evening because the numbers that you have been showing show Colin Allred over Julie Johnson by about as much, almost exactly as much as he was the percentage points ahead of her in the primary back in March, about 11 to 13%, right now running at about 10% ahead of her in the votes that have come in so far. He has told us that he's been counting on his name recognition, his previous time in Congress, as he tries to basically replace his replacement. When he was the representative in District 32, the districts were redrawn, of course, we all know that by now, and these two former colleagues now facing each other in this District 33 race. We don't know at what point tonight Colin Allred is expected to show up here to address this small group of supporters here in this small room here at the Union Hall. But we do expect him here tonight, and if the numbers continue on the trajectory they're on right now, this would indeed be a happy occasion and a victory party for Colin Allred. We will be here tonight watching and waiting for him to show up. In the meantime, my colleague Brittany Costello is with the Julie Johnson campaign in the Oak Lawn area of Dallas.
Yeah, Kevin, well, we're actually waiting for Congresswoman Julie Johnson to come here to this watch party. She's expected to arrive around 8 o'clock. We talked to her a little bit earlier. She was feeling good. Obviously, you mentioned some of the numbers coming in. She told us earlier today she felt like name recognition was her biggest hurdle. She says, in the district she represents now, it's about a third of this newly drawn district. She admits Colin Allred has 95% of name recognition. So that was a hurdle they were trying to get past in these last couple of months. She says they've been hitting the ground. They've been knocking on doors. They've been making phone calls. And she felt really good about where they were at and how hard they were working. Again, it's to be seen how the rest of the votes come in. But we are still waiting to see if and when she arrives here at this watch party. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Brittany, thanks for that. Let's come out and talk about, the fundamentals here, Matt. I keep hearing, and I've heard forever, that Julie Johnson just has the machine, has the apparatus to get the vote out. We've also seen Colin Allred, though, run twice for Senate, spent millions of dollars for that name ID. Did this come down to either one of those, or is this simply about personality here?
Well, I think it was closer because of organization. I think Julie worked hard, but I think at the end it was just Colin had a lot of name ID, and he's well liked. Colin's overperformed in every race he's ever run. Even the ones he's lost, he overperformed other Democrats. And I think we see that again. I think an important thing about this race, though, this district was created through a gross racial gerrymander. It's absolutely packed. And so whoever wins this, and assuming Colin holds on,
sure,
there's a big responsibility now. He's got to take the place of the fact that there's been another district erased and do the hard work in the fall. You can't just sit in a safe district. And so I think the real challenge for Colin is, will he pick up and work this hard in the fall in order to elect other people?
That's an interesting point, because Julie Johnson kind of got dinged on that for saying something similar about Mark Vesey, Bud.
Well, and of course the allegation of not working hard is has all kinds of connotations to it. But what happened here? Colin Allred, although we talked about him as a candidate for Senate, that he really had the strongest poll numbers against Paxton, that he would really be the most likely to win, more likely than Tallarico. But he was still labeled as a loser, and the Democrats believed he was a loser, and they started gravitating to Tallarico's charisma and personality. And that's what he had to overcome in this race. When he led the primary, people said, oh, that's because Jesmyn Crockett's on the ticket. He's winning just as big this time. At some point, he arched up and said, I'm going to win this. He's carried it through, and he is going to win this one big.
He is keeping that same margin, Andrea.
I think we also have to mention he spent $5 million more than Julie Johnson.
Yeah.
And that matters, especially in a new district when neither of you have a history there. So he spent $5 million more. He did what everybody would do. He went and he bought the votes. Julie can work hard. She's an incredibly hard worker. They both are good Congress members. They treat their districts well. Either one of them would serve that district well. He had $5 million more, and that bought the votes.
I'm not take anything away from Julie. She ran a really, really hard race. But the voters who cast votes today knew both candidates. They made a choice here. And the real question is now, what is Colin going to do with the fact that he's the choice? Because Mark Vesey took an unfair hit. Mark Vesey has worked harder than any North Texas congressman for other candidates. The question is, will Colin Allred pick up that mantle and start to do it? And
Julie Johnson was the first LGBTQ member of Congress from the South. And what I found interesting about this race against Colin Allred is that Allred ended up winning. We'll find out what happens tonight, but Allred ended up winning the Oak Lawn Library, that precinct over there, which is a very strong LGBTQ precinct. Did that surprise you at all that Johnson didn't carry that, at least on March 3rd?
Not necessarily.
Why not?
Not necessarily, because I think, again, within the Democratic Party right now, I don't think that you've got as much of that identification support.
Yeah.
The idea is to build a coalition, and who can build a coalition. So I don't think people went into that to a great degree saying that I'm going to vote for the African American candidate or I'm going to vote for the LGBTQ candidate. I think they voted for the person that they related to, and I think they voted for the person they thought would be most effective in helping them in the fall.
There's another big story happening in Harris County. This is a congressional race. It's CD number 18, Al Green. This one's already been called, guys. With 11% reporting, Al Green, it looks like, is not going to return to Congress. Christian Menifee, brand new congressman, freshman congressman there in Harris County, has sent Al Green home. You know, at the end of the day, this was really a generational fight right here. Were Democrats ready to move on and elect a younger person? Democrats and Republicans have both faced this. Whether to you know, let one generation step aside and let another generation come in, and it looks like voters there have done that. But any surprises about that? Al Green was hugely popular, and you know, people see him all the time at these State of the Union addresses.
He was hugely popular, but he was moved out of his district. Christian Menifee, very well known in Houston, very well known in Harris County, and he's local again. And Al Green's been in Washington, and for all the talk about him being popular, you know, people loved seeing him argue on television, but Christian Menifee's who they saw in their city and their district every day. You know, it's really hard when you have someone who has to come home from Washington on weekends and campaign. Mm-hmm. It's hard to run against somebody who's really firmly established locally.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrea, and you've seen this a lot too. Well, that is a challenge for these incumbents to deliver from D.C., but also come back and make sure you show up at the catfish dinners, et cetera, right?
It is, and it's also, to me, the Democrats following a few years behind kind of the reckoning in the Republican Party for identity. I think the Democrats are doing the same thing. Is it time for a new generation? Is it time for a more liberal side of the party to take over? And I think that you're seeing that through Christian Menifee.
And Wheeler, fire up I'm coming over there to you in just a minute here.
I'm fired up.
Jason. But let me ask you about that, because we're seeing a further right group take over the Republican Party. Are we seeing a further left group take over?
Christian Menifee is to the right of Al Green. Al Green's one of the most liberal members of Congress.
Yeah.
What this is a generational change, and it's about change.
Does it surprise you, though?
No, it doesn't. Christian, this is now the fourth election that he's run. He's been on TV in Houston for about a year. Yeah. And Al Green's probably run 2 TV commercials his entire career in Congress. And so I'm surprised by the margin, but I'm not surprised that Christian won.
And Menifee has, I mean, he vastly outspent I was trying to pull up the numbers here, but he vastly outspent Al Green. Menifee spent $5.7 million. Al Green spent $335,000. So Menifee has you know, been able to successfully raise the money and spend that on name ID, and it looks like he won a seat to Congress tonight.
Well, Christian Menifee's already a rising star in Congress. He hasn't been there a year.
Sure.
And he's somebody that I think when you're looking to what Democrats are going to do and who's going to be running for other offices going forward, Christian Menifee is right at the front of that line.
All right, Jason, let's take a crack at the Republicans running for a number of seats here.
Okay. So I've pulled this up here. First of all, this is still the early vote that we're looking at right here. There were about 830,000 Republicans who voted in early voting. We're at about 722,000 votes in, 724 now, which was a really good turnout for a runoff election. That was more than the past 2 runoff elections combined for Republicans. As this map fills in, I don't know where John Cornyn is going to be able to play catch up as you start to watch this.
This margin is stunning right here.
It's humongous, 186,000 votes between them at this point. Just to run you through, I just don't think any of us expected to see such a wide margin tonight. In the primary, a couple of months ago, John Cornyn took Bexar County by 4 points. Look how far he is behind there. In Houston, in Harris County, they were almost neck and neck there, a couple of points between them. Look at the blowout for Ken Paxton there so far. Montgomery County, no shock. That is Ken Paxton territory for sure. The last time it was like 57% to 20-something%. Look at this margin that we're seeing there. You come up here, Ken Paxton's home county, Collin County, they were neck and neck there. Look at this difference here. Denton County, same thing. They were neck and neck last time in the primary. Look at that. Tarrant County, I misspoke earlier. I said that Cornyn took that by 17 points. He actually took it by 7 points in the primary. Look at the blowout Ken Paxton's putting on there. And then when we look at Dallas County, you can see that John Cornyn is just barely ahead there in Dallas County. He took that county by 18 points, I think it was, the last time around. Williamson County was crucial for John Cornyn again tonight. Heavily populated there, just north of Travis County, Austin area. That was John Cornyn there last time by 15 points. Look at the blowout there. I just don't know where he can cobble together enough votes, even if you had a great election day turnout. I just don't know how you make up these kinds of deficits. I mean, this is a stunning figure.
Yeah, indeed so. And the race to replace Paxton as AG is another big race here. Earlier we saw this. Mays Middleton was way out front. We have almost half of the total vote in right now. And Mays Middleton, another MAGA candidate who we've talked to a number of times on
called
Inside
himself
Texas
MAGA
Politics.
Mays. Yeah,
it was good alliteration.
Yeah,
and you know, if you're paying for it, he got what he paid for. It looks like, because he's 100,000 votes ahead of Chip Roy.
I think some observers would have thought that this one would have been closer too. Chip Roy ran a very hard-nosed campaign on this. He was also, on the airwaves a lot and really went aggressively. Mays Middleton, though, I mean, just you look at this number, he's just running away right now, 103,000 votes ahead. And again, this is we're getting close to hitting that early vote total, and then we'll start to see those election day results reflected in these numbers as well.
And let's look at the Railroad Commission here. This is another bellwether here.
Yeah, this goes back to that whole change thing that you all were talking about up there. This is a year of change election. I mean, you see it here with this senatorial race right now. Right now, anyway, I always caution. We're seeing it right now with this Railroad Commission. This is Jim Wright, the incumbent. He had the governor behind him, the lieutenant governor behind him, the House Speaker here in Texas behind him. Those are the three most powerful positions in this state. Now, some would say that they got behind him too late and didn't get behind him enough with resources. But this is an incumbent, and Beau French, people may know him just from some of the news articles they've seen about him with the controversial statements and very far right, and again, this is just that kind of year. And you all were talking about the changes in the Republican Party here in Texas, and this is representative of that.
Yeah, sticking with Republicans here, Congressional District number 33.
Yeah, this one, Patrick Gillespie's been ahead. We still only have a portion of the vote in, and whoever ends up walking away with this will take on whoever wins between Colin Allred and Julie Johnson. And for that Republican, whoever takes it, that is a very heavy lift because this district, as it's carved up here now, would have gone for Kamala Harris by about 33 points. It's District 33. Would have gone for Kamala Harris about 33 points. So, pretty safe Democratic district, and so we'll see who takes that battle on. And then last thing here that we would point to, nobody ever follows the Court of Criminal Appeals, place number 3, but we're watching this tonight just because this is the highest criminal court in Texas. We always think about the Supreme Court, that's civil cases. What they do is very important work. It is an all-Republican court. These are the two Republicans battling it out to take on the Democratic nominee. And this is the Ken Paxton endorsed candidate. You see he's doing very well tonight with 660,000 of those 830,000 or so early votes in. And there may be some undervotes in this one that people didn't quite make it down to that race.
And Jason, while we're on the big board, let's go through the Democrats.
Let's do that. We're starting with Attorney General here, Nathan Johnson, with a very comfortable lead, about 20 points. This isn't shocking what we're seeing here because, if you look back at the primary a couple of months ago, he was ahead of Joe Jaworski in that primary by about 20 points at the end of the night. It's just that we had another candidate on there siphoning off some votes, and so neither one of them made it quite to 50%, and so they ended up in the runoff. Again, on the Democratic side, we had about 347,000 votes, I think, in early voting. Right now, we got about 288,000 of those in.
Let's before we move on here, let's go out to Cole Sullivan in Lakewood. He is live right now with Nathan Johnson, the senator from Dallas. Cole?
Hey, Jason. Senator Johnson, thank you for taking a couple minutes to talk with us here. Race hasn't been called yet, but you got a comfortable lead here. How are you feeling at this point?
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling relieved. I got to tell you, Runoff elections are just really hard on everybody in both parties. They go on forever and they distract you from the main thing, and they're stressful, but there have been so many people that have continued the support, continued their confidence through this period. That I feel happy for all of them. I'm so eager to get to the general election, to start tomorrow morning against, it looks like, Mays Middleton, and win that election in November. We really wanted to get through this in a good position with a solid return from the voters, an affirmation of the very positive campaign that we ran, and it appears to be breaking that direction. I don't want to call things prematurely, but I feel really good about this result so far.
And sir, you mentioned the Republican opponent, whoever it may be after tonight. That has been a nasty race with a lot of money in it. And we've seen that whoever comes out of that race is going to be poised to keep running, to keep going that direction. How do you hit the ground running tomorrow?
I mean, I think they've dug a deep hole for themselves. I said in an interview a while back that my path to victory is to let Chip Roy and Mays Middleton go be nuts and unproductive and destructive in their primary election. I'll hang it on them for the rest of this cycle, and I'm going to run as the serious guy. They've done a good job of demonstrating that they're not serious about the job of Attorney General. They have turned a blind eye to corruption. They've pledged absolute fealty to Donald Trump. And even if you like Donald Trump, the office of Texas Attorney General is not supposed to pledge fealty to any president or any governor. It is to serve the people of the state of Texas, and that is the campaign I'm going to be running. I feel very strongly that we can take whichever of them comes out of this primary in November.
You're talking about coming out of the primary in November and trying to bring kind of non-partisanship to this race. It's going to be a partisan ballot in November. We've already seen that. Yeah. Do you think that's going to break through, especially after seeing what has been the power of this office over the last few years?
This office has been nationalized in reputation. Ken Paxton has demonstrated the power of this office. Unfortunately, he's done it in a very bad way. I maintain that this office of Texas Attorney General can be as powerfully good under the right leadership as it has been powerfully bad under the wrong leadership. And I think the voters are sick of it. They have seen the corrupt use. They have seen the abdication of duty. And the campaign we've seen in the Republican primary says they will do more of the same. Mays Middleton himself has condoned corruption of this very office by voting to acquit Ken Paxton in the impeachment trial that the Republicans brought against him. This is not going to be that hard. I think people need to start talking about the margin of my victory, not whether or not we're going to beat the Republicans in November.
Sir, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us here. And Jason, there you have it, ready to start the fight starting tomorrow morning, he says. We'll send things back to you.
Cole, thanks a lot. Good work there. We appreciate that. He said the margin of his victory is what should be looked at tonight, not whether he's prepared to take on the Republican. It looks like Mays Middleton.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it is a big margin right now. Again, the night's still somewhat early, but he has run up quite a margin there. Either one of these guys who would get through, though, they've basically said, get me in there, and things will get a lot more uncomfortable for the Trump administration. We'll be, suing and going after and doing, and may not be so comfortable for Governor Abbott either if either one of them were to make it in there. And so we will see. I mean, Nathan Johnson doing very well in the Democratic primary there. But again, you start talking about taking on, if Mays Middleton ends up walking away with this, you talk about taking on that kind of money. I mean, look at what he's poured into just this race.
With his own money.
It's extraordinary.
Sure.
But then again, money isn't everything, as Senator Cornyn is finding out tonight.
Good point.
I mean, this is the most expensive Senate race in U.S. history now that has gone on between these two. And most of that has been spent by John Cornyn, and it has not bought him any favor tonight.
Cornyn spent $90 million on this, and then Paxton spent a little bit more than $11 million on this.
And look at this.
To see the margin there is pretty stunning. Let's stay on the Democratic side here and look at the Lieutenant Governor's race.
Lieutenant Governor's race, I mean, again, you start to wonder, if you're, Marcos Velez, how are you possibly going to make up what you are behind here? Again, this is not all of the early vote in, but it's a pretty substantial portion of it now, and she's cleaning up, doing very well across the state. We'll keep watching that. Let's go down to 18. I want to talk about that one. Again, this is that generational change. We keep hearing that word change. This on the Democratic side, this one has already been called for Christian Menifee over a long time. Congressman Al Green there. And then finally, we'll end up back at 33, which we've been talking about quite a bit tonight. These numbers haven't moved. We've been seeing them sit still for quite a while. We'll expect to see that election day vote come in, and we'll see if that starts to change the tide at all.
This is the bottom line here. The headline is this is a huge night for MAGA Republicans in this state. Let's go to Jobin Puneker right now. now. He is with the Paxton camp in Plano.
Like
He
just
is
1,
with
2,
State
test,
Rep,
test.
Katrina
mic
Pearson
checks.
there.
We hear you.
And we can hear you, Joe, but if you can hear us. So you're there with State Rep Pearson. So tell us what's going on.
Perfect. Hey, yes, I had to make sure because there's about 300 people in here and it's getting loud. But yes, I'm with State Rep Katrina Pearson, House District 33. You stumped for the Attorney General. Tell us that decision that you said that was mutual. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I'm excited to stump for the Attorney General primarily because I have known Ken Paxton for a very long time, at least 14 years. I have been in the trenches with Ken Paxton since the days of the Tea Party. You know, we fought for him to become a senator. We fought for him to become the Attorney General. Now we're fighting for him to become the next senator from Texas, which, by the way, is happening tonight. And I did that because I want somebody that's going to stand up for Texas and our values. And we have not had that for a very long time, particularly with Senator Cornyn, having been in office over 24 years, an entire generation. Senator Cornyn has been in the Senate and has not been representing Texas in the way that we need him to, someone to fight. Ken Paxton was with me during all of the Trump administration on the front lines when everybody else would stay back. He was with me on January 6th, fighting the good fight. He's been fighting for election integrity and all of the things that are important to Texas and our country.
And I'll ask you about the president in just a second here. You're seeing the returns. Are you surprised by them?
I'm not surprised at all. This is a long time coming. The grassroots in the state of Texas have been waiting for an opportunity to have a viable candidate, and we found our candidate in Ken Paxton, so it doesn't surprise me at all. I fully expected him to win this race, if not outright, certainly in a runoff, and that's what's happening.
You've worked with the president, right? His endorsement comes in the 11th hour. Did you expect that to be there? I mean, people have been talking about it for months, and it finally happens just 7 days ago.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. President Trump stayed out of the race for the most part. He's the leader of the party and probably didn't want to weigh in. But at the end of the day, and many Texans will tell you that the president's endorsement would not have changed their minds. I mean, if you're a Ken Paxton voter, it would not have mattered if he had endorsed in the opposition. So I think that's really what happened, and President Trump knows Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton has been fighting for him when John Cornyn was not, and so it just made sense for the president to stand with his base in Texas.
In speaking with some of these voters, a lot of them are talking about what the senator has not done for them versus what Ken can do for them. Sure. Why do you think that is?
Well, because we've had 24 years of a senator not fighting for Texas, whether it be for amnesty, whether it be the border, and even standing up with President Trump. We have not seen that from Senator Cornyn. We know we're going to see that with Ken Paxton. A lot of times people get to D.C. and they forget who put them there. And we know Ken Paxton, since he was in the House of Representatives, through the Senate, through the Attorney General, he has always fought for Texas. And so it's a big win tonight for the state.
Katrina Pearson, State Rep for House District 33. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's going to be what they're hoping is a short night, and I guess we'll find out. We're seeing some of the returns already.
All right. Jobin, thanks for that. Indeed, it is going to be a short night. It looks like there aren't any close races that we are watching on our hot race list. In fact, we're expecting a number of people to come out and speak here in the next few minutes. Colin Allred, Julie Johnson. We also just saw a tweet just a moment ago we want to pull up here. This is Texas Governor Greg Abbott just a moment ago. Congratulations to Ken Paxton on the resounding victory. Next, he will destroy Tallarico and become the next U.S. Senator from the state of Texas. That was at 7:59 minutes ago, just indicative of how short this night is going to be. But I don't remember a night that has been like this. It seems like these things have gone on into the night for cycle after cycle.
Well, we have a very short ballot. We have, 4
True.
races and not 13, and we're not digging into all the county races and everything else. So, but this is wrapping it up really quickly. I think, I'm going to go ahead and say, I think we have to ask now, is there really an enthusiasm gap at all for Republicans involving Ken Paxton? We said running up to this that the turnout would be about 1% less for Paxton than would for Cornyn, that Cornyn had a better chance to beat Tallarico. With turnout at numbers like this, is there any drop off at all? I don't think so. I think we see a tremendous turnout for Paxton that Republicans plan to carry over to the fall.
There doesn't seem to be an enthusiasm gap at all. And you made a good point too, Andrea, that the president wasn't doing that well with a number of things going on, from the Epstein files, the war in Iran, gas prices, you name it. But he is winning back his base
In the
here.
last few weeks, he has endorsed against Senator Cassidy, who didn't even make his runoff, endorsed against Congressman Massey, who lost pretty resoundingly, and now this victory, which he came in late, but you better believe he's going to be claiming credit for it tonight.
And we talk about enthusiasm, Matt. We're seeing the Republicans obviously very enthusiastic with the numbers who showed up tonight. Are Democrats going to have that as well behind?
Absolutely. And
behind Tallarico?
It's not only going to be behind Tallarico, it's the fact that you've got all these Republican activists who are excited about a guy who was guilty of fraud. His own office turned him into the FBI for bribery,
Right.
and his wife divorced him for biblical purposes. I mean, you've got this odd circumstance where you've got this very just excited Republican base who can't wait to vote for criminals and crooks and people who are morally challenged. And I think that it gives Democrats an extraordinary opportunity. We've got to pay very close attention and work very hard, because you're not going to have this opportunity again.
But none of that. I mean, you know, John Cornyn spent $90 million making that case. It didn't stick with Republican primary voters. We know that the independents in the state always lean to the right. But do you think that that's even, is that going to be viable as an argument come November?
I don't believe that the broad electorate in Texas is just decided that it's okay to be represented by crooks and creeps in Washington, D.C. I think that what you've got is we're in an era here among Republican Party activists in which they are ideologically locked in, and it doesn't matter what the moral character is of the person that they're behind. Trump is the best example of that, and I think that James Tallarico is the perfect counter to somebody like Ken Paxton.
Jason, we ought to talk about how Republicans justify what Ken Paxton's done. You know, first of all, you start with a securities fraud. 15 years ago, he paid a fine to the civil. He was prosecuted criminally, first person ever prosecuted criminally for securities fraud that anybody could remember. He paid his civil fine. People say it should have dropped there like everybody else did. So people say he should never have been prosecuted for that. That was the court case that dragged out.
But as you continue this conversation, we do want to say that the Senate race has now been called
official
for Ken Paxton. This all obviously comes just, a few moments after the El Paso polls closed in the Mountain Time Zone in far west Texas. But continue on, Bud.
Runaway. Republicans say he should never have been prosecuted criminally. He paid a civil fine. That the conduct, you know, what's called fraud in the AG's office was investigated. The people then they just say, well, all politicians get away with a lot, and they favor their friends. And then they say, as far as firing his staff and the whistleblowers, they say, well, that was his prerogative. He was the boss. He was the attorney general. That's what we set him down there to do. And then the divorces, they say, or the divorce and the outside affairs, they say, well, that's all between him and his wife. I mean, the Republicans have a way of checking off all of Paxton's flaws and writing them all off and say, oh, don't worry about that. Oh, don't worry about that. Oh, don't worry about that. And they're going to continue to do that in the fall.
Well, because at the end of the day, what they're driven by is the attack on Muslims, the attack on people of color, and the attack on people who are non-Christians of any type. That's what was driving that, and they're willing to forgive anything. And you just talked about securities fraud. Yeah, he cheated his own colleagues. He cheated his colleagues in the legislature. He stole their money. That's a disqualifying act.
But it doesn't seem to be tonight with the Republican primary voters. I mean, as we're watching here for the Republicans to come on stage there in Plano, we hope this shot doesn't freeze. There's a lot of reporters out there, a lot of cameras out there, but we're expecting a number of people to come up to the lectern there before the nominee, Ken Paxton, the U.S. Senate nominee for Texas, the Republican nominee, takes that in just a moment. But getting back to this for a moment here, let me ask you, Andrea, with what we're seeing here, the Republican Party of Texas has made that full transformation now from what was a Reagan-Bush party to what is now a Donald Trump party. I remember covering President Bush in 2000 down in Austin. I don't remember as much enthusiasm. There seems to be a lot more enthusiasm now for where the party is today.
I would say there's enthusiasm for it in a smaller group. They're just very loud, and it no longer matters who you are or what you've done. It's fealty to the principles that now align the party, and that is right in line with MAGA. It doesn't matter that you committed securities fraud. It doesn't matter that you're on your we have a president on his third wife. It doesn't matter anymore. People are not putting our elected officials under that microscope of character as long as they are promising to be a fighter, go after liberty, and lower your property taxes.
I think you're right about it's a smaller group, but my question has always been, where are the rest of those Republicans in this state that voted for Greg Abbott, for Phil Gramm, for all these other, originally Reagan-Bush Republicans? What happened to them?
They died.
Oh, well, there's still plenty of them here.
Not enough to make a difference in a primary runoff. I think we're seeing tonight.
Yeah.
Jason,
didn't vote.
I
They
talk
don't
to
vote.
some of them every week. There are a number of people who have been voting Republican for years who are disillusioned. They beg me, give me somebody I can vote for. These guys are lost. What Donald Trump has done, he allowed people to say horrible things out loud, and they are loving saying it out loud very loud. He's given people permission to be their worst selves, and Ken Paxton is a perfect example of one of our worst selves getting dominated.
He will be, though, the nominee for the Republican Party for U.S. Senate.
Jason, we probably talked too much about that special election in Tarrant County a few months ago, but in that special election where the Democrat upset a Republican district, remember 25% of the Republicans in that district actually crossed over to vote for the Democrat because they hated the Republican candidate.
Bud, stand by, and to our viewers who are watching us online or streaming as well, we want to stand by here as well. Don't turn us off, don't X out of the stream, because we're going to take a brief break right here. You'll still be able to see everything. We're going to do an update with the Senate race now called for Ken Paxton for our TV audience on WFAA. So stand by just a moment as we do this.
And the incumbent Senator John Cornyn. You can see there the AP has called this race for Ken Paxton. He is now the winner of the Republican Senate runoff. Again, we are expecting to hear from the Attorney General at some point tonight. His supporters obviously very, very excited. Again, not all of the votes are in, but enough are to show a sizable lead for the Attorney General. At this point, he has about a 63% to 37% lead, or 62 to 38 there over the incumbent John Cornyn. Obviously, this race shifted in a very big way in the final days as President Trump gave a very loud endorsement for the Attorney General. But again, some of the votes were already in. Some people had already voted early, maybe in that first day or two before the president's endorsement. But it was clear that when the early votes started coming in very early on, that Attorney General Ken Paxton had been running very well in all parts of the state, that his support was not confined to any one area. Again, I encourage you now, if you want to hear more about this and perhaps to get more context on this race, just flip over to our streaming app, WFAA Plus. Our election night special continues, and we'll see you back here for WFAA News at 10.
Update for our TV audience. Here's the headline tonight. This is going to be an early night. Ken Paxton with the runaway results here tonight, defeating incumbent John Cornyn, a four-term U.S. Senator, defeated him tonight by a wide margin. so far, which is quite incredible here. This was a big night on the Republican side, too, for the race to replace Ken Paxton on the Republican side. Mays Middleton ended up winning, way ahead right now. I don't know if they've called the race, but he was way ahead of Chip Roy. Same thing with the Railroad Commission. Let's go over to the big board over here. Beau French was running on the Railroad Commission against the incumbent, Jim Wright. And let's just start with the races that have been called here, because a number of them have since we last saw you, Jason.
Yeah, it's weird because usually we've been here for so many long nights, Jason. It's so weird to have races called so early in the night like this. This one, it looked like it was over before, the two horses left the gate tonight. I mean, Ken Paxton, this is a walk-off for him. That one's already been called tonight, not even close there. The Attorney General's race on the Republican side has not been called yet. Mays Middleton has held this lead, a very comfortable lead over Chip Roy for most of the night. And again, this is with 821,000 votes in. So we're just several thousand votes away now from the total early vote being totally counted. And then they'll get into those election day results as well. Beau French still ahead in that Railroad Commission runoff. This has tightened as we've been going through the night here. Jim Wright, the incumbent here, still behind though by about 40,000 votes. He has a lot of ground left to make up. We'll see if he can get there before the night is out. That one certainly hasn't been called yet. Patrick Gillespie still ahead in District 33 here in North Texas, a very heavily Democratic district, but this is on the Republican side for the runoff. That hasn't been called yet either. This Court of Criminal Appeals, place number 3, has been called for Thomas Smith. He worked for Ken Paxton, was endorsed by Ken Paxton, and so he will now take on the Democratic nominee in this one, who has already made it through.
Before we get into the Democrats here, just a quick programming note. We're waiting any minute now for a number of people to come out and talk to reporters to address their supporters as well. Colin Allred, Julie Johnson, and Bud, was it John Cornyn who was speaking at 8:15? John Cornyn? Yes. John Cornyn is also expected to speak in the next 2 or 3 minutes as well. As soon as these guys come out, we'll make sure to take that live, but let's go back.
Yeah, usually you have to wait till the end of the night for those two, but
10 o'clock
everything's
at night usually.
sped up now.
Huh?
Nathan Johnson, this one's been called. He will be the Democratic nominee for Attorney General going into November, easily handling Joe Jaworski tonight. For Lieutenant Governor, even more so for Vicki Goodwin, just running away with it tonight. She has already been called as the winner in that race. She'll take on Dan Patrick. That is no small task, so we'll see how that goes. Let's go to 18 here again. That one's been called. Christian Menifee, the new generation there in that district, who will now take on the Republican nominee. And then 33, this one still hasn't been called. It's been sitting at about this level for most of the night. We're looking for that election day vote to be counted. That one could take a little while on what is otherwise a very early night for so many of these races.
Yeah, indeed so. To think about where we are here for a moment, the John Cornyn, who's been a fixture in Texas politics for 3 decades.
As I told you,
longer than that.
When we were in break earlier.
Let's go to Cornyn walking up to the lectern right now. They're at the hotel in downtown Austin.
Well, good evening, everybody. After a public service career lasting more than 4 decades and 18 consecutive campaign wins, tonight we've come up short in this primary runoff. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine say, "You know what makes God laugh?" He said, "When we make plans." I've spent most of my time in the Senate building the Republican Party in Texas and in the U.S. Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it. Tonight I'm joined up here by 3 women who mean everything to me, and without whom I never would have enjoyed the incredible ride and public service career that I've had for many, many years. Of course, my wife Sandy, of 46 years and counting, and then our daughters Danley and Haley, of whom I'm enormously proud, and they mean everything to me. Politics is hard on families, especially. But I believe, and I know my family believes, that public service is an honorable calling. Serving others is a high purpose. And while much about politics is ugly, we choose to serve through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, we could not have run this race without an outstanding campaign team that has served me so well through so many campaigns. Truly the finest I've ever worked with. To Rob, Mayanne, and Andy, and the entire campaign team who worked tirelessly and gave everything they had, and who believed in me, I want to express my gratitude. Of course, I want to thank my U.S. Senate staff, ably led in Washington, D.C. by Drew, and in Texas by David. You work hard for 32 million Texans every day that I'm honored to represent, with long hours, high stress, and job uncertainty. I want to express my gratitude to my staff for their incredible professionalism and dedication to the 32 million people of Texas that I'm honored to represent. To everyone who's worked with me, alongside of me for all these many years, I just want to say thank you. And then to my supporters in this campaign, more than 1,000 current and former elected official endorsements, more than 30 statewide organizations, to every financial supporter, every volunteer, everyone who voted for me in this election, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tonight I'm reminded of something Teddy Roosevelt said in 1910. He said, "It's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and blood and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." A number of years ago, up in West Texas, that's not the region, that's the city, where there was a terrible catastrophe, the county commissioner up there said something that stuck with me all these years. He said, "Being a Texan doesn't describe where you're from. It describes who your family is." And for the past 2.5 decades, I have represented this family in the United States Senate. During that time, I helped write and pass a number of historic tax reform bills, focused on building our military for tomorrow, helping put hundreds of conservative judges on the federal bench, worked to take Washington's boot off the necks of Texas job creators, and helped tackle some of our nation's most challenging problems. In this runoff election, approximately 8% of registered voters made their voices heard. And of that 8% who voted, roughly 60% said they were ready for a different direction. Another reminder that those who show up decide for those who do not. There's a simple rule in elections, you've heard me say it before, and that is the candidate who gets the most votes wins. The party in the majority gets to govern, and my hope is to keep my party in power for generations. I am an optimist by nature, which is just another way of saying I am a Texan. Yesterday when I was in San Antonio, where I stood alongside of 109 students who had been admitted to service academies for this upcoming year, This was the 20th time that we've had this Academy send-off, and it remains my favorite event of the year, because these young men and women, the leaders of our military and our communities and our nation tomorrow, give me great hope and optimism for our future. Well, a scripture verse comes to mind as well, where the Apostle Paul said, I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I've kept the faith. Over the next 7 months, my service in the United States Senate, I intend to continue my work to help make this nation a better place for all Texans and all Americans. Thank you very much, and may God bless Texas, and may He continue to bless the United States of America.
Senator Cornyn.
I'll have more to say later.
All right, guys, make a hold, please.
All right, that is John Cornyn. We really haven't heard him like that. I mean, it's clearly an emotional night there. He said he has won 18 consecutive races. Tonight he came up short. Obviously emotional with his wife and his daughters there by his side. But he says that he's going to support the Republican ticket this fall. But I've asked him, I said, what does that mean, support? Are you going to back Paxton, or what does that mean? And he will not come out and say he's going to back Paxton. This has been a bitter and brutal primary between him and Paxton. Do you expect him to do that?
Well, and we see all the Cornyn supporters saying that James Tallarico will lose. They all come out and say Tallarico will lose. Texas will not elect an arch-liberal like Tallarico, but none of them yet has come out and said that they will support Ken Paxton. You know, John Cornyn's speech was just like John Cornyn, you know, serious, somber. You know, he's somebody who's been an institutionalist in the Senate. He's driven by legislation. He's about serious governance for the country. He's not about putting on a show or putting on the biggest fight or being the biggest fighter. Jason, I don't know what you think. We saw this coming a year ago. We said if this thing goes to a runoff, the day after Memorial Day, Paxton's going to run away with it. We said this 10 years ago, and that's exactly what happened. This is no surprise whatsoever.
The question now, and he kind of mentioned it there, Andrea, is what happens over the next 7 months as he finishes this term out. Does he vote with the president? Does he decide to go his own way? Because some of his colleagues have done that, we have seen.
I think he continues to serve just as honorably as he has for his entire term in the Senate. I do think we see him break with the president more than he has in the past, but I don't look for him to go quite as rogue as a Senator Cassidy.
Yeah, you don't think so?
I don't think quite. I just don't think he has the same personality as Senator Cassidy. I think Senator Cassidy wants to watch the world burn for a little bit.
I think that, well, they're probably both pretty upset with what happened tonight.
I'm sure.
With the Cornyn race. Thoughts on this, Matt, from the left?
Well, you know, John Cornyn spent the last year surrendering every ounce of dignity that he had in order to pander to Donald Trump and try to get the support.
Stand by just a second. Christian Menifee is speaking right now. We want to go to Houston where we can watch him. He just defeated Al Green to keep his seat in Congress. Christian Menifee right now.
They came and started surrounding me and did all they could to help lead us to where we are today. So I want to say a special thank you to them. That is Dooney, Danielle and Stacy, Linda Brown, Evelyn Dupree, Julian, and of course this crazy, crazy man right here, Gerald Womack. And Gerald got on the phone and half the Houston was supporting the campaign after he got off the phone. To the folks at the Harris County Attorney's Office, Neil Sarker, who's here, I don't know if he's on stage, Neil, Jay Iyer, these are folks who I hired as soon as I got to the County Attorney's Office, and they stuck with me. And then, of course, John Fonbon, our current County Attorney. After Caitlin, John was the very first person I ever talked to about running for elected office. And he's been with me ever since, someone I can go to for just about everything, and it means the world to me to have your friendship, John. To my finance committee, the chairs, Katie McNerney and Gerald, raising that money. But it was many of y'all. I'm looking out across the room, Derek, Mike Munya. I see so many people who hosted fundraisers, who gave a couple bucks, who got their friends to give money, and it really means the world to me. Thank y'all so much. To our organizations and partners who supported us, thank you. The AFL-CIO and every single union, and I know my Fab Five from the Teamsters are here somewhere. Thank y'all. To the elected officials who supported this campaign, those of you who read the Bible know there's a story about a young man named Gideon who was going to war, and when he was going to war, he had thousands of soldiers with him, and after a series of tests, those soldiers went from thousands to just 300. And in the first campaign that we ran, we had a lot of people standing with us, but it was a whole lot less in this campaign. And so I want to make sure that we give our flowers to the elected officials who stood by me. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Quite a headline there in Houston tonight. Congressman Christian Menifee defeating Al Green, a longtime incumbent there in Houston. So it is interesting to see the party there, at least in that district, go from a veteran to a brand new generation of a representative. I cut you off a moment ago here when we were talking about Cornyn and Paxton.
Well, you were saying nice things about Senator Cornyn.
Well, the question is, can he recover from really what he's done that's really embarrassing, I think, for somebody who's had the career that he has. He's got 7 months to Congress. He doesn't have to vote with the Democrats, but will he bring some responsibility? Will he give John Thune some backbone? Will he stand up and oppose that thug fund that Trump wants to do to him in order to give J6 people who beat the president taxpayer funds?
Beat police officers.
Yeah. Will he stand against the ballroom? Will he do something about the fact that Trump promised not to put us into stupid, endless wars, and we're in one? I mean, he doesn't have to suddenly turn into a progressive, but he could be a real heart and he could be a real conscience for the Senate. And the question is, will he do that and get some of his dignity back?
What do you think, Bud? Is he going to?
He has said over the reason that he has done what Donald Trump wants. He has said over and over that he listens to the will of the voters. The voters spoke when they elected Donald Trump. His job is to carry out the will of the voters. He has explained over and over that that was why he aligned himself so closely with Donald Trump. I believe, and I believe he made a vague reference to this in his speech, he's going to continue to carry out the will of the voters. He's heard from the voters again tonight.
And we expect Ken Paxton to be speaking here shortly. Usually, they usually wait until the winning candidate usually waits until after another candidate, the defeated candidate, gives a concession speech. We just saw that from John Cornyn a moment ago. We're also waiting for Colin Allred to speak tonight, for Julie Johnson to speak tonight. Both of them supposed to come out about 15 to 20 minutes ago. They're likely still watching the numbers come in, though. Jason Wheeler showed us on the big board a moment ago that race was tightening up a little bit, but Colin Allred still way out front in that race. It is yet to be called. Almost the same numbers as what we saw back on the March 3rd. So here is the Paxton race. This is in Plano tonight. Congressman Brandon Gill, one of the first speakers out here. Let's listen in.
And you know what that means? That means that we are finally going to take our country back, aren't we? That means that we are sending a fighter from Texas to Washington, somebody who's going to stand up for our values, aren't we? Yeah. Somebody who's going to fight to keep the border secure, to deport illegal aliens, and yes, to get the Save America Act passed. Because it's not good enough anymore in Washington to just say the right things. We need somebody who's going to do the right things. And that person is Senator Ken Paxton. It's been a long road to get here. I was proud to have endorsed Paxton weeks ago, whenever he was right in the middle of the fight. But now we're at a point where it's the Reds versus the Blues. It's shirts and skins now. It's time for Republicans to come together, to unite, to make sure that we send a Republican Ken Paxton to the Senate. Because I don't think that the people of Texas want to see James Tallarico anywhere near Washington or anywhere near our children for that matter. I don't think the people of Texas believe that God is non-binary, do they? I don't think that the people of Texas believe that there are 6 sexes, do they? No. What I would like to ask Mr. Tallarico is, since you've said that, why don't you explain to the people of Texas who are these other 4 genders? I think we want to know. I think we'd like to know how you come up with the perverted idea that the Bible is pro-abortion. That's not Texas values. My favorite was whenever Mr. Tallarico, not long ago, was on a podcast, and the podcast host asked him, she said, what are some things that you love, Mr. Tallarico, that's not your family or your friends?
So that is Congressman Brandon Gill from Republican from Flower Mound, who is addressing the Paxton supporters there in Plano tonight. We're going to keep an eye and an ear on that, and when the U.S. Senate nominee, comes out, we're going to go back and listen in with him as well. Jason, if we could have you show us some of the other Republican races over here, the Railroad Commission race especially, Beau French, Jim Wright, is another big one we've been watching simply because this one is kind of a bellwether, Beau French being such a MAGA candidate against the incumbent. Traditional Republican, Jim Wright on the commission.
Yeah, and this is one of those very unsexy races too. When you start talking about Railroad Commissioner, you can almost see, people's eyes just kind of glaze over. Has nothing to do with railroads anymore. They do oil and gas here in Texas, which of course is an enormous industry. And so these are very powerful positions and affects a really large part of our economy. Well, right now, Beau French is still out front in this one. We are now past the early vote, so we've got some day of voting in here as well. I think I'm going to wrap it up because Ken Paxton is about to speak here. Let's take a listen into that.
I feel speechless in a way, but they're not going to let me do that. Wow. To the people in this room, to the people watching at home, and to the people of the great state of Texas, tonight, we just made history. I want to thank my family, my kids, my grandchildren, the Paxton Patriots, and every single person here today. Without your love, your support, and your prayers, we would not be here tonight celebrating this incredible victory. I'd also like to thank all of the grassroots, local, state, and national leaders who supported this campaign, including Congressman Brandon Gill, who just spoke, Lance Gooden, Congressman Nels, Congressman Wesley Hunt, and Congressman Ronnie Jackson. I'd also like to thank Scott Pressler and Turning Point Action for their endorsements. And then there's one person who I think you might know, President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support, and I look forward to working with him in the Senate to deliver for Texas. Tonight, we just sent a Texas-sized message to Washington. I said it in March, and I'll say it again now. Today, change was on the ballot, and change won. Let me be clear, this is not just my win, this is your win. We just proved that this Senate seat doesn't belong to Washington. It belongs to you, the hardworking men and women of this state. We went up against $150 million in all the attacks in the world, and you know what happened? The voters declared loud and clear a simple truth that we know in our hearts and in our souls: Texas is not for sale. Now, I want to take a minute to say something about Senator Cornyn. I want to thank Senator Cornyn for his service to this state. John has dedicated much of his life to serving Texas. He's worked diligently for years to help Texas. And for that spirit of service to the Lone Star State and our nation, I'm very grateful. Thank you, John. So no matter who you supported in this race, whether it was me, Senator Cornyn, or you voted for someone different in March, I want to thank every single Texan. And I want to let them know that I want to earn your support. Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of the fight to preserve every value we hold dear. The future of Texas and the future of America is on the line, and I intend to do everything I can to expand our movement. I've won 3 statewide elections because I know how critical it is for our party to come together, and that's what we must do now. Without a shadow of a doubt, I will be the Democrats' #1 target in November. Texas will be the radical left's #1 priority. But if there's one thing I know about Texans, it's that we're not going to let them take it. This campaign is not about red versus blue. It's about so much more. My opponent is the most extreme radical the Democrats have ever nominated. He's even running a vegan campaign, whatever that is. He goes by a few names that you may all have heard of. Some people know him as Tofu Tallarico. Some people call him Six-Gender Jimmy. I've even heard some people call him James Talafrico. And others refer to him simply as Low T Tallarico. But no matter what you call him, let me tell you this: James Tallarico is a threat to everything we hold dear in this state and in this country. He's a threat to our security and our safety. He wants open borders and even said a welcome mat should be at our southern border. He's a threat to our children. He wants boys and girls sports, gender mutilation surgery performed on kids. And when asked what he loved outside of his family and friends, you heard what Brandon Gill said. His first answer was trans kids. That's weird, and that's a radical guy. He's a threat to our prosperity and Texas economy. He said you can't be a Christian if you support the oil and gas industries. He wants to raise your taxes, and he won't do a single thing to lower costs for you and your family. And finally, he's a threat to our very way of life and our values. I mean, he's a vegan who thinks God is non-binary and that there's actually 6 biological sexes. It's hard to imagine someone more radical than that. No matter what he says or how much he raises, the reality is that James Tallarico is going to be nothing more than a Texas-based puppet for Chuck Schumer and the National Democrats. He wants the open borders policies of Biden, the woke agenda of AOC. He's going to push trillions more in spending. It's going to continue to drive up prices for all of us. He can never become our senator, but I need your help. We know James Tallarico is going to raise more money than any Democrat in America. So I need everyone watching to go to kenpaxton.com and donate right now and support this campaign. Every Democrat, and I would say every Republican, knows that if we lose this state, if Republicans lose this state, we lose the country. Amen. But I truly believe that together, not only will we win this race, but we can ensure that America's best days are ahead of us. Yes. You see, I'm not just running against the Democrats. I'm running to deliver for you, just as I have as Attorney General. I'm running to lower your cost of living because you deserve to be able to buy a home, afford groceries, and have a high quality of health care without being forced to stay up at night worrying about how you're going to pay your monthly premium or pay off your debt. In the Senate, I'll support President Trump's America First agenda and finally secure our nation's elections by passing the Save America Act. I've taken on big food and big pharma as Attorney General, and I'm going to continue doing that in the Senate because making America healthy again is critical for our nation's future. As Attorney General, I've sued some of the largest companies in the world like Netflix, Snapchat, and Roblox for taking advantage of our kids by exposing them to dangerous, addictive material. In Washington, I will not stop fighting to protect Texas children from big tech hurting our kids. We live in dangerous times, and that's exactly why I'll support our military and be ready to confront the threat from Communist China, which is our #1 geopolitical enemy. Just a few weeks ago, I helped establish the first ever detransition clinic in the country at Texas Children's Hospital. This will help kids reverse the damage caused by radical doctors who tried to transition them. And in the Senate, I will never back down from taking on the woke mob. I've also seen firsthand how bad judges can destroy our freedom and force a liberal agenda on Texas. That's why I will be dedicated to confirming judges who will uphold and defend the Constitution. So now it's time to finish this, Texas. We have until November to come together and bring as many people into this campaign as possible, defeat James Tallarico, and deliver for our state. I can't thank you enough for your support and your hard work and your vote. Thank you for making history. God bless you, God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America.
Huge night there for James Tallarico, for Ken Paxton and James Tallarico. You know, we're talking about what this matchup is going to look like, but Ken Paxton with a runaway win tonight, thanking his supporters, a number of elected officials there in the audience as well. Katrina Pearson down front, but he had a huge win over John Cornyn tonight. You know, the Attorney General also thanked Cornyn, said he's grateful for his service. You know, we all saw those ads between the two, and it was a bitter and brutal campaign, but still the Attorney General thanked John Cornyn, said he's grateful for his service, starting the whole remarks off tonight, saying tonight we made history. I do want to bring in a tweet just a moment ago from his Democratic opponent, already out there tweeting as well, saying he wants to thank John Cornyn for his years representing our state, saying we don't agree on everything Tallarico said, but we still believe in public service. And then this line, to Cornyn's supporters, you have a place in our campaign. That was about 40 minutes ago when he tweeted that out. Paxton suggesting the same thing, trying to reach out to those voters as well. Everyone is going to be trying to get Ken Paxton or John Cornyn's votes here over the next 5 months before the November election. We are waiting about 15 minutes from now. Colin Allred, we understand, is supposed to speak to reporters and supporters at his place tonight at 9 o'clock. So in about 15 minutes, we'll bring you that. But let's go round robin here. Thoughts on what Ken Paxton said tonight, Bud?
Well, you notice when he said that about Cornyn, there was almost no response from the crowd. There was like this, it was like this, very just tepid reply. So there wasn't any enthusiasm. There wasn't any big enthusiasm for Cornyn's voters. What Paxton said was just typical boilerplate of a Republican campaign. He talked about all the threats to America and made it sound like that the United States would be nothing but a little pile of dust if a Democrat were elected. But he really didn't give any answers. He didn't say what he was going to do. He won't be able to do anything because he won't be able to. I mean, they're not going to pass things just because Ken Paxton's there. He'll be just a thorn in the side of the Senate and keep things from moving if he is elected. So he won't be able to accomplish much. The point I'll make, and I said this a while ago, is that tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of when the House, his own fellow Republicans in the House, voted to impeach him. And so I believe that James Tallarico will point that out. The House sent over 20 charges. Lieutenant Governor Patrick threw some of them out immediately, never even brought some of them before the Senate. Some of the charges were never even heard. Some of the cases were never even heard. Others, there were no witnesses allowed. I mean, there were no, Paxton wasn't called. The prosecution's witnesses weren't allowed. They really didn't get to put on the case that they sent over from the House. And so I think that those 20 charges, that James Tallarico will bring up all 20 of those again beginning tomorrow.
But still, Paxton survived that. He survived everything that has been thrown at him, even inside the Republican Party, and he's done it for cycle after cycle here. That's just remarkable to me, Andrea, to see this happen tonight too.
And I think, you know, if I would have told James Tallarico to do exactly what he did, which is tell the moderate Republicans who just saw kind of the final death knell of their side of the party lose in a runoff, there's a place for you. That was smart. And this is going to be a well-run campaign on the Democrat side that Texas hasn't seen before. And there is a group, I don't know how large it is, of Cornyn supporters who will not support Ken Paxton.
But we have, you know, I mentioned this earlier, we haven't seen the full Republican machine hit Tallarico yet.
We have not.
We saw that first ad that Paxton put out, a few days ago, and that was a blistering ad against Tallarico, so we know where the GOP is going to come from with ammunition against him. And I just don't, I mean, I don't know, can Tallarico defend himself against that?
If people are paying $5 a gallon to get to the polls to vote in November, will it matter?
True. What do you think,
I think
Matt?
it's absolutely the case. He didn't say a thing about the fact that people can't put gas in their car, that they're paying too much for groceries, they can't get health care for their kids, their schools are being trashed. I mean, those are the things that voters care about. Those are the things that James Tallarico is not afraid to talk about. And I think the fact that you saw Cornyn's numbers down so low, you've already got some Cornyn people starting to move over. Their first move was to not vote in this runoff. And the next move is to just consider James Tallarico. It takes an extraordinary mental and moral gymnastics to move from the way that Cornyn's people talked about accurately about Ken Paxton, about his crimes, about his corruption, and then suddenly decide you can be for him. I think there are a lot of Texans that just aren't going to make that leap.
But now when Tallarico says we'll make a place for Cornyn supporters, do the Democrats really do that? I mean, where do the Democrats make a place for Cornyn supporters? There's no room for moderate, centrist Republicans in the Democratic Party at the moment. The Democrats are moving farther to the left.
Actually, the only place there are for centrists anywhere is in the Democratic Party. You get drummed out of the Republican Party. I mean, James Tallarico is strong on energy. He's got a pro-business record as a legislator. I mean, he's somebody that people can look for reasonableism, who can see the world from the middle out. Paxton's going to see things from a jail cell out.
Let's take a live picture now from Lakewood, where Julie Johnson, the Congresswoman, has just arrived there at a Democratic watch party to talk to her supporters here. She is speaking now.
On this journey, I've had the great privilege to serve North Texas for 8 years. This, you know, we're not happy with how the votes came out so far. We're waiting on election night. We had some strong support at the polls. But if it doesn't turn out our way, you know, I'm going to congratulate Mr. Allred. I'm Team Democrat. I want to win in November. I want our slate to win in November. And that is what we have to do. So, you know, I want to thank my team. They're amazing. They've been with me the whole time. But we're going to wait for the votes to come in. You know, I'm a strong believer that every vote counts. We've worked really hard. And I'm really proud of the campaign that we've run, but more importantly, I'm really proud of the record that we've achieved during the 8 years I've had a chance to serve. It's not everybody gets a chance to do this, and you know, redistricting is a bitch, and you know, it's had its intended consequence where none of the current incumbent members are likely to return to Congress here in North Texas. And so the Republicans, we cannot let them win in November. We have to double down as Democrats. We have to come together and unify behind our ticket, because that's who we are. We can't have squabbling. We can't have hard feelings. We all have to move on, because what is at stake for the values that we share is far too great than to get mired in petty grievances. So I am going to do everything I can to make sure my friend Nathan Johnson is the next Attorney General. make sure James Talarico is our next senator. So we'll all have to join together. But now it's time to have a cocktail. We're going to wait for Election Day returns. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey, who's been part of this ride. It's been a hell of a ride, being a Texas Democrat, I got to say, in the state legislature and in Congress. But when I was contemplating running for this seat in 2024, I remember having a conversation with my dad. And he goes, honey, you're going to regret it if you never try. And I have no regrets. Thank you.
Congresswoman Julie Johnson, they're hugging Nathan Johnson, no relation. He's a Democratic state senator. He is now the Attorney General nominee for the Texas Democratic Party as well. You know what was interesting about that is that Julie Johnson, talking to some supporters and some of her staff there, she did not concede to Colin Allred. And let's stay on this video of her still talking to her supporters there. She says, listen, we're still waiting for votes to come in. Some more of her staff there. And Brittany Costello, a few of our reporters, but she's waiting for votes to come in. She says, despite what happens, essentially she suggested, listen, I'm still going to support the Democratic ticket and work to make sure that Democrats win in November. But Matt Engel, I was surprised she didn't come out and concede. Let's bring up the numbers of where things are right now at 8:52. Colin Allred 10 points ahead, 2/3 of the votes in right now. We expect him to speak in 8 to 10 minutes or so. What's your reaction to this, Matt?
Well, I'm not all that surprised. She's a fighter, and she's going to fight for the last vote. And also, I'm pretty sure that the vibe in that room was they weren't ready for her to concede, and I think she probably read that room. And so I think she's going to let some more votes come in and kind of let things settle out.
I think she's a fighter. You're right about that, Andrea. You know both of these candidates.
I think they've both served fantastically well. This is a horrible spot. They kind of got put in against one another instead of fighting for districts after the redistricting. But I do think it's going to be very hard for her to overcome that 10-point difference at this point.
I was going to say, Bud, I mean, I don't see how it can be done.
I think everybody there is happy about Nathan. She doesn't want to bring down the vibe. So I think she says, okay, we're going to keep fighting our race and hooray for Nathan. I don't think there's any way that she does it, but I can understand why she wouldn't come out with any downer comment.
And of course, Julie Johnson joined the Nathan Johnson party tonight. Julie Johnson was not having an event of her own tonight. Instead, she joined the Democrats over there in Lakewood at that event there. I wonder now, with her not conceding, whether Colin Allred comes out in the next 10, 12 minutes or so.
I think he wants to. I think he's been wanting to for a long time, Jason.
I don't think he's going to let her change what his night looks like.
He's competitive. He wants to win, and he wants to talk about winning.
Yeah. He still comes out either way, you think?
I think so.
And he gets to come back. Yeah. He gets to come back to Congress.
Go ahead and claim it either way, then, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
He may come out more than once.
Yeah. Exactly. Jason, let's take a look, the other Jason, as we affectionately call him. Let's take a look at the big board tonight and see how some of the other races are shaping up.
I think at one point I heard somebody say the better Jason. Was it other?
I didn't hear that.
Strange. Well, but before I get to those other races, I did want to just dovetail off of what you all were saying about this race between Allred and Johnson. This percentage looks big. You know, he's got that 10% lead, has had it all night long. These numbers haven't moved. But when you really look at it, she's 1,309 votes behind him. So the percentages can look big, but the number of votes doesn't always. And this is what that's done since we had the primary a couple of months ago. 71,611 people voted in that primary. Look at where we are now, 13,303 people weighing in on this runoff race. Now, that number is going to come up as the night goes and we get the rest of this Election Day vote in. But you see this huge drop-off, and it appears that, at least for now anyway, Colin Allred was able to turn out his voters, and Julie Johnson, so far, we're not seeing that work in her favor tonight. Just thought that'd be interesting to show that graph there. Senate, we already know what happened there on the GOP side. Attorney General, this still hasn't been called. Total votes now nearing 1 million, so we're well past the early vote on that. About almost 60% of the estimated vote in, and Mays Middleton still ahead by more than 11 points there. But, you know, the folks who know how to do math a lot better than I do still are not looking at calling that race. This one's been tightening as we've been going through the night. We've been watching this closely because, again, this is a bellwether. We've got a very MAGA candidate here in Beau French taking on the incumbent in the railroad commissioner race there. That's been tightening as we've gone through the night. They're now separated by a little more than 30,000 votes, almost 31,000 votes. So we'll see if that trend continues. At some point here, though, the incumbent Jim Wright is, you know, as we said earlier, going to start to run out of runway to make up that distance that he would still have to go to be able to pull that one off. This is the other side of the Julie Johnson and All Red match for District 33. This is the Republican race for that. That's been sitting still all night where it is as well. No winner called there. This is a very Democratic district, though, the way it's been carved up. So, you know, whoever takes it away tonight on the Republican side will certainly have their work cut out for them. Again, that's the All Red Johnson. I just keep checking back to see if we get any new numbers. We haven't seen them. Christian Menifee running away with it down in the Houston area over Al Green. The Lieutenant Governor, as we said earlier, Vicki Goodwin, no problems tonight securing the nomination. And then Nathan Johnson for Attorney General. These numbers very much match what we saw in the primary a couple of months ago. It's just that there was another candidate who, you know, pulled down the percentages and made this go to a runoff. So that's where we stand right now. We're really, you know, as far as I'm concerned tonight, keeping a very close eye on what happens in this race and whether we hear from Colin Allred soon. And then, of course, that railroad commissioner position, you know, it's not often that we are focusing so much on a railroad commissioner position here in Texas. Very powerful position. But again, it's just, you know, what does this say about the Republican Party tonight? Is it more of what we've been seeing through the night with Ken Paxton running away with the nomination for Senate? And if this holds like this would be more of the same with that trend line, Jason.
And so we have a dozen races here we've been watching, guys, and the only close race here is Beau French, Jim Wright, the Republican nomination for the Railroad Commission. Bud, what do you make of that? And this continues to tighten as the evening goes on.
Well, it shows that who the Republicans in Texas are. They turn out their vote. They organize. There were so many push cards, you know, so many organized ballots, organized lists. You know, the court race with Thomas. It was like bing, 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 bing. These are the four candidates to vote for, and nobody else. It's all the Trump, MAGA, and religious right party, and that's really who the Republican Party has been for quite some time. The senior Republicans, the institutionalists are out, and the people who are aggressive, who want to punch the Democrats in the nose, those are the people who are in. Those are the people who are winning top to bottom. Beau French, the most aggressive of those, but they all want to. Their number one goal is to punch Democrats, and their number two goal is to lead a government, and we'll see.
Well, let me ask you about that. I asked Andrew a moment ago. You talking about the institutionalists, the Reagan-Bush Republicans. They're still around in Texas, but are they just not going to participate, do you think, or are they going to vote Democratic?
They're loyal, and they're going to do what Greg Abbott says, and Greg Abbott now becomes the standard bearer for the Republican Party. He is the one who has the giant organization. He is the one who has a lot more money than Paxton. He has the money to turn out the votes. He has the structure. He is the one. The entire Republican Party, you know, will need to ride Greg Abbott's structure to victory in the fall, and that's who has to turn out the vote, along with Senator Cruz and what organization he has.
Andrea, let me ask you. You know, talking about the race tightening up there for the Railroad Commission. Beau French is the only MAGA candidate that is not running away with this tonight.
He's not, and I think you saw late endorsements come from Governor Abbott, from Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and from Speaker Burrows. If they had come earlier and maybe with some money and campaign power, I think we might be looking at different numbers here.
What do you make of that, though? Because Beau French is well known. He's a firebrand on the right. He's gotten even MAGA Republicans upset at him in the past.
He's one of the few that even some of my very right friends have gone, that might be too far. That might be too far.
Yeah.
And you had the lieutenant governor calling for him to resign his position about a year ago when he was head of the Tarrant County GOP. And so to wait so long to come out against him when both Abbott and Patrick are sitting on huge war chests, they could have made a difference in this race, and they chose not to.
Let's bring in another race that's been called here in the last few moments. It's the Republican race for Texas Attorney General Mays Middleton ahead of Chip Roy. with 2/3 of the vote there. He's ahead by 12 points. This race has already been called by the Associated Press. Mays Middleton now going to be the Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General to replace Ken Paxton. He's a civil attorney, state senator from Galveston, and he is going to be taking on Nathan Johnson in the November race here. Not really a surprise, but still, that's a MAGA candidate with a 12-point margin against, I'd say, a more independent Republican, not a traditional Republican
He's not
at
a
all.
traditional Republican.
No.
This feels like one of the main races that has turned from MAGA and establishment to kind of two versions of MAGA, and I think we're going to see that more as we in the next primary cycle.
Yeah, that was religious right against patriot movement, and the religious candidate won.
And Matt, let me ask you, Nathan Johnson versus Mays Middleton. Middleton clearly has the money he'll be able to put behind it. He's adopted this MAGA Mays moniker, which he's been using successfully so far here. How do you think this would shake out?
Well, I think that Nathan's got a chance here. If he's,
You think he does?
He's got to make sure that he really leans in to the whole MAGA Mays. And I hope MAGA Mays calls himself MAGA Mays the entire time and has to eat every bit of negative energy that whole movement represents. And when y'all talked about Beau French, you said firebrand and hard charger. Those aren't the right words. This is a guy who openly campaigned on attacking Muslims, and his own party condemned him for posting anti-Semitic stuff online. I mean, that's who their party is really being led by. And our party and Nathan Johnson's got to make sure that that's what MAGA Mays stands for too.
Well, why do you think that Ken Paxton, a MAGA candidate, has run away with this tonight, that Mays Middleton has, that these other MAGA candidates have done so well, but Beau French is in a much tighter race at this hour?
Well, it's much further down the ballot, and Beau's a very divisive person, apart from being somebody who is extreme and somebody who separates based on race and other things. But beyond that, he's controversial. Even in his own party of Tarrant County, they were ready to get rid of him.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. A number of Republicans have condemned things he said. They've gone after him, but still.
But we shouldn't be surprised he's not winning by more. We should be appalled that he's winning at all.
Well, nobody had heard of Jim Wright. Nobody knew who Jim Wright. Now, you could ask everybody in the state who's chair of the Railroad Commission. Nobody would have known.
People know what the Railroad Commission is, bud.
He won the Railroad Commission seat because his name was Jim Wright, and it was the simplest name on the ballot. It kind of rang a bell. You know, he upset somebody who was the establishment candidate at the time. Now everybody just piled in behind him to be against Beau French.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and that's also, he really had nothing going.
But it may not be enough. You still may have a guy like Beau French get himself nominated in the Republican Party in Texas.
And Beau French, to understand Beau French, you have to go back to one tweet where he says, everything that I write is to get attention. That is the core of everything else you see and hear from Beau French. And you go back and you say everything that he does is to get attention, and at the time it was to raise money for the Tarrant County Party. But he's from the Steve Bannon wing of the party, which is not in line with a lot of the MAGA.
But we can't let him off the hook on that. I mean, that's cover. That's cover to say, oh, I don't really mean it. I'm just getting attention. They mean to instill hate and give people permission to say horrible things out loud.
He draws hundreds of thousands of people who agree with it.
Yep.
Andrea?
We're also seeing I think we're seeing a change. The conservative influencer is not happy being an influencer. They're wanting to move into that elected official position. Even Brandon Gill was in media before he ran for Congress. And I think you're going to see more and more of that, who are going to have to answer for tweets, for podcast interviews that they've done as influencers when they're just trying to get those views and that engagement. And then all of a sudden they're going, and I'd like to write your laws, please. And it's going to be interesting to see what the next primary looks like.
That's a good point. It's a few minutes after 9 o'clock right now on runoff election night. The polls closed here 2 hours ago. The polls closed in El Paso and far west Texas about an hour ago here. It has been an early night for so many races across the state. A huge night for MAGA Republicans in Texas. Ken Paxton running away with the marquee race of the night, defeating John Cornyn, sending him into retirement by a wide margin tonight. We'll go ahead and pull up some of the screens here and go through these results here in just a moment. But a huge night for Republicans like Ken Paxton, MAGA Republicans. He has been called the winner, 63% to 37%. That's with 2/3 of the vote in. And, incumbent Senator John Cornyn will not go back to the U.S. Senate next year if he were to win in November. Let's look at a few more of the races here too. A few moments ago, if you're just now tuning in here with us, Mays Middleton is the Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General. He's put a lot of his money into this race. He's branded himself MAGA Mays. You've likely seen the ads. Chip Roy admitted he did not hit as hard until the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then he decided to ramp up the spending, and he hit a lot harder here. It seems like it was a little too late, but either way, this is a huge night for MAGA Republicans, and the one we've been talking about is the Railroad Commission tonight. Beau French from Tarrant County running against Jim Wright, the incumbent there. Jim Wright, of course, with the support of state leaders right now, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, the Speaker of the House as well, all backing Jim Wright. But Beau French, a far-right MAGA firebrand with the lead here. He's kept the lead all night, but this race really has tightened up with 2/3 of the vote here in. This is going to be a race we're going to watch. We're waiting any moment now also on the Democratic side for Colin Allred to come out here. We expected him about a half hour, 45 minutes ago. He has not come out. We did hear from his opponent tonight, Julie Johnson, the incumbent Congresswoman, and she was speaking, not giving up yet. She said she still wants to wait and see a few more of the votes come in before she decides what to do next. This is the Communication Workers of America Union Hall, and reporters and supporters are there tonight where Colin Allred has been leading. He's ahead by 10 points tonight. Dominique Alexander there on the right-hand side of your screen. He's been a long-time supporter of Colin Allred during this most recent campaign here. But folks, getting ready to see what Colin Allred has to say. It looks like he is going to be the nominee for District 33, the Democratic nominee. So we'll wait and see if he comes out here in the next few moments. As far as surprises go here tonight, guys, Andrea, let's start with you. Any big surprises? I'll tell you I'll start things off. My surprise is how fast this went tonight.
I think I was thinking we would see it be pretty tight right after early voting, and then Ken Paxton slowly take it through the evening as Election Day came out.
Let's go back to the Colin Allred watch party there at the Communication Workers of America Hall. Allred is walking in right now, we're told. Let's listen in.
So, first we'll do some remarks and we'll take questions. Yeah. All right. Okay, I don't have a mic. So y'all just got to hear me. Come on up here, John. And brother. Where's Fahad? Where's Fahad? Yeah, come on over here. Come on over here. Come on this side. Yeah. Brother, come over here. Where's Councilman Fahad? Come on, Zishan. Fahad? Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I am not here to say the election's over. It's not. Okay? We're still counting Election Day votes. But it looks good. And I'm looking forward to when it's finally over. Because the truth is, I think we've all had enough of primary season. When Donald Trump and the Republican Party are eviscerating our rights and our Constitution, making life unaffordable for working people, starting wars out of nowhere. We need to move on from talking about what's going on in the Democratic Party and start talking about what they've been doing. These folks, I talked to a voter today, and I just said, I'm just calling you to encourage you to vote. I think she thought I was AI at first. And I told her, listen, these are the reasons I think you should vote. And she said, I hope y'all just do something about how much everything costs. She said, I can't afford to fill my gas tank. She said, if I take $50 to the grocery store, I can't get enough for my family to eat. And I was just thinking, these elections matter, but what we really have to do is get to the work that these folks need us to do. Because there are people out there who are struggling. There are people out there who are looking for somebody who might care. And I do. And I know y'all do. We know what's at stake. A couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court thought that they could go ahead and eliminate the ability for us to elect candidates of our choosing in the South. They struck down what was the remaining portions of the Voting Rights Act. And as a voting rights lawyer, I took that personally. But I also think that it's time for us to no longer live off the accomplishments of the civil rights movement or past generations who fought for our rights. It's time for us to fight for those rights, right? And I got to tell you, I feel like we're heading for a good election in November, right? But here in the Democratic Party, we also have to make sure we make very clear who we stand for. And in this election, that's why I'm so happy to be here at the CWA Hall and to have the support. And to have the support of the AFL-CIO and my brothers and sisters in labor. Because the Democratic Party, if we stand for anything, it has to be for working people. It has to be for opportunity, for the idea that if you work hard and you play by the rules, that you should be able to get ahead. It's a very simple promise, but it's one that has been broken. I can't tell folks now that this system is fair to them. I can't tell them that. If you feel like it's rigged, that's because it has been. And we have to unrig it. I've been going all around our city and our area to places that you wouldn't normally campaign. Boxing matches, right, Renee? Construction sites, grocery stores, restaurants, anywhere where working people are, to talk to them about what's going on in their lives. And they know Donald Trump is corrupt. And they know that he's not on their side, but they're wondering if the Democratic Party is too. So I'm here tonight to say the Democratic Party will stand with working people in this election and going forward. That's what we stand for. We're going to stand up when they want to spend your tax dollars dropping bombs in the Middle East. I've had enough of this nonsense, of us thinking we're going to solve all of our problems just by attacking people. That's not foreign policy. That's being a bully. We're going to stand up for the idea that diversity is a good thing. Right? It makes us better. We're stronger because of how diverse we are. North Texas is strong because of what we look like. But it's been under attack. And I have so many people that I want to thank. I can't say thank you for making sure that we won because we're not there yet. But I have a lot of people I want to thank. And I want to thank, first of all, my excellent campaign team. If y'all have had any interaction. To my campaign manager, Shad. The whole team, y'all got to bear with me because I'm going to say their names. Nicole, Jane, Sonia, Kennedy, Dexter, Chase, Anna, Paige, Ed, and Jasmine, and our great field team for knocking on the door. I want to thank Representative Retta Bowers for being my friend throughout this whole thing, my church member. And her son, John Bowers. I want to thank all of the folks who've been involved in this campaign. To Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for your leadership. You know, Jasmine's not done. And I appreciate her for the voice that she had, both in terms of running for Senate, but also in terms of using her platform to encourage people to stay involved. Yep. And I have to tell you that when I got elected in 2018, I forgot to thank my wife. She was standing right next to me. And I thanked everybody else in the room, but I didn't thank Allie. Allie and I have two boys, Jordan and Cameron. They're 7 and 5. All this campaigning and all this stuff has made it hard for us sometimes. And she's held it together on the home front and kept me sane. And I can't thank her enough. She's at home with our kids right now. And some of y'all have heard me say this, but I carry 2 rocks with me everywhere I go. My boys are kind of funny. They collect rocks. And they bring them to me. And I have like a whole collection of rocks at home. And they're just normal rocks. They're not special rocks. But they thought they were special, and they brought them home. And so I carry these 2 little rocks with me everywhere I go. And I tell my boys that whenever I'm not with them, I have my rocks with me so that I'm carrying some of them with me. And my message to y'all in this time where everything seems dark, where you feel like you see progress going backwards, where you feel like nobody cares or sees you, that your government is attacking you, that we have an out-of-control ICE terrorizing our communities, that when we have a president who just talks about himself with no mention of the greater good or the broader interest, to remember your 2 rocks, that there's something that motivates you to believe in our society, to believe in our community, to believe in your family, to believe that we can do better than this. Don't let them get you down. They want us to believe there's nothing we can do about this. But when we beat them in November and we take back the Congress, we're going to hold them accountable. I'm telling you. I want to see butts in seats. I want to see hearings. I want to see investigations. I want to see us hold them accountable. They've been breaking the law. And we're going to make sure folks know about it. And here in North Texas, if they come into Dallas or they come into these communities, I want them to know that I'm going to be watching. And that if you violate my people's civil rights, I will be there to fight you every step of the way. You hear me? Because they think we're going to go back. And we ain't going back. We're not going back to counting jelly beans in a jar or bubbles on a bar of soap. We're not going back to ask for permission to be involved in our democracy. We're not going back. And this election here in November, we're going to stand up to them. Are y'all ready? Yeah. You fired up? Yeah. You ready to go? Yeah. Fired up? Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, appreciate y'all.
There is an animated Colin Allred right there hugging State Rep Retta Bowers and other supporters. He said, listen, the election is not over. This race is not over. Julie Johnson, his opponent, did not concede. He says that Allred says we are still counting Election Day votes right now, but it looks good. Those were his words. There's the vote right now, 2/3 of the precincts reporting, 68% reporting, and Allred leads by 1,300 or so votes, 55% to 45%. We also have a live feed inside the Dallas County Elections Office where they are actually counting these final votes coming in right now. They actually have to wait for these boxes, each precinct to close, and they physically bring it in here. So it looks like some people might be sitting there waiting right now, but it's still very active with this significant race still in limbo right now. Even though Colin Allred is way out there in front, this race has yet to be called, and it might be a little longer before it is called or before Julie Johnson concedes tonight. Let's go back in our final moments here for a quick round robin, and we started with you, Andrea. Biggest headline of the night. What surprised you?
Like we said, I think it is that Ken Paxton took it so early, and really everybody. We thought we would be here waiting for each release of a county as Election Day votes came in, and that just was, I think by 7:15, we were like, well, okay, that's what happened this time. I think a really interesting narrative coming out of tonight is most likely Colin Allred is going to win. He and James Tallarico did not have a great primary together, and yet James Tallarico has to turn out huge numbers in Dallas County, and he's going to need Colin Allred to lead that. And are they going to be able to work together, and what's that going to look like?
That is a fantastic point, because we all remember the video, Matt, of Colin Allred sitting on his workout bench telling James Tallarico to keep his name out of his mouth. How's that going to work out between Tallarico
it's going to work out
Allred?
fine, because I think that there's going to be a real effort, probably a greater effort than we've seen before, of Democrats who are sitting in safe seats doing the hard work in the fall to deliver their vote. And that's going to be necessary, because the big takeaway here is that the Republican Party of Texas now is the MAGA National Party. It is a franchised division of national Trump MAGA. There's no Texas Republican Party anymore. That gives Democrats an opening. It gives us a chance to appeal to a lot of fair-minded Texans who want Texans actually representing them. That gives James Tallarico a chance. It gives a lot of Democrats down ballot a chance. It's on us. It's on the Democrats to make sure that we make ourselves available and open our party to them.
And Bud, biggest headline for tonight?
Jason, I feel like we're about to watch Lucy set up the football for Charlie Brown again. Year after year, we've seen all this. Texas is going to turn blue. We're about to see this, national media, magazine covers, everybody descending on Texas, everything going on around James Tallarico. But if you look at these numbers, they bear out that survey from Austin that we talked about a few weeks ago. It showed at the top that Tallarico would win, but if you read down, Texas was more Republican than it was in 2018. Texas was more conservative. Texas was more literal Bible believing than it was in 2018. Every number under the top line said that Texas was more conservative than ever. And I feel like those are the numbers we saw tonight.
I'm looking forward to that magazine cover of James Tallarico in black and white, shot by Annie Leibovitz.
Eating a hot dog.
It's definitely coming.
Like Beddoes, right?
Eating a steak, probably, at this point.
We shall see. What a huge night for MAGA Republicans in this state. Ken Paxton won the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. He defeated John Cornyn. We had Mays Middleton defeat Chip Roy for the nomination as Texas Attorney General. On the Democratic side, Nathan Johnson is the Democrat nominee for Texas Attorney General. Christian Menifee, Congressman from Houston, will go back to D.C. He defeated, huge upset there, defeated veteran Congressman Al Green. So there's significant headlines tonight. The one race, two races actually, we are still watching to see play out is District 33 in Dallas County. The Democrats, Colin Allred versus Julie Johnson. Still some votes to be counted. No one's claiming victory. No one's conceding yet in this race. And of course, the Railroad Commission race is another one we are watching. Beau French on the Republican side versus Jim Wright, the incumbent. These two races might go a few more hours into the night, perhaps longer than that. Either way, we will be watching. Thanks for watching us here tonight. Thanks to our viewers watching across the state as well. Full results coming up a little later tonight at 10.
feel speechless in a way, but you know, they're not going to let me do that. Wow. To the people in this room, to the people watching at home, and to the people of the great state of Texas, tonight, we just made history. I want to thank my family, my kids, my grandchildren, the Paxton Patriots, and every single person here today. Without your love, your support, and your prayers, we would not be here tonight celebrating this incredible victory. I'd also like to thank all of the grassroots, local, state, and national leaders who supported this campaign, including Congressman Brandon Gilth, who just spoke, Lance Gooden, Congressman Nels, Congressman Wesley Hunt, and Congressman Ronnie Jackson. I'd also like to thank Scott Pressler and Turning Point Action for their endorsements. And then there's one person who I think you might know, President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support, and I look forward to working with him in the Senate to deliver for Texas. Tonight, we just sent a Texas-sized message to Washington. I said it in March, and I'll say it again now. Today, change was on the ballot, and change won. Let me be clear, this is not just my win, this is your win. We just proved that this Senate seat doesn't belong to Washington. It belongs to you, the hardworking men and women of this state. We went up against $150 million in all the attacks in the world, and you know what happened? The voters declared loud and clear a simple truth that we know in our hearts and in our souls: Texas is not for sale. Now I want to take a minute to say something about Senator Cornyn. I want to thank Senator Cornyn for his service to this state. John has dedicated much of his life to serving Texas. He's worked diligently for years to help Texas. And for that spirit of service to the Lone Star State and our nation, I'm very grateful. Thank you, John. So no matter who you supported in this race, whether it was me, Senator Cornyn, or you voted for someone different in March, I want to thank every single Texan, and I want to let them know that I want to earn your support. Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of the fight to preserve every value we hold dear. The future of Texas and the future of America is on the line, and I intend to do everything I can to expand our movement. I've won 3 statewide elections because I know how critical it is for our party to come together, and that's what we must do now. Without a shadow of a doubt, I will be the Democrats' #1 target in November. Texas will be the radical left's #1 priority, but if there's one thing I know about Texans, it's that we're not going to let them take it. This campaign is not about red versus blue. It's about so much more. My opponent is the most extreme radical the Democrats have ever nominated. He's even running a vegan campaign, whatever that is. He goes by a few names that you may all have heard of. Some people know him as Tofu Tallarico. Some people call him Six-Gender Jimmy. I've even heard some people call him James Tallarico. And others refer to him simply as Low T Tallarico. But no matter what you call him, let me tell you this: James Tallarico is a threat to everything we hold dear in this state and in this country. He's a threat to our security and our safety. He wants open borders and even said a welcome mat should be at our southern border. He's a threat to our children. He wants boys and girls sports, gender mutilation surgery performed on kids. And when asked what he loved outside of his family and friends, you heard what Brandon Gill said. His first answer was trans kids. That's weird, and that's a radical guy. He's a threat to our prosperity and Texas economy. He said you can't be a Christian if you support the oil and gas industries. He wants to raise your taxes, and he won't do a single thing to lower costs for you and your family. And finally, he's a threat to our very way of life and our values. I mean, he's a vegan who thinks God is non-binary and that there's actually 6 biological sexes. It's hard to imagine someone more radical than that. No matter what he says or how much he raises, the reality is that James Tallarico is going to be nothing more than a Texas-based puppet for Chuck Schumer and the National Democrats. Yes. He wants the open borders policies of Biden, the woke agenda of AOC. He's going to push trillions more in spending that's going to continue to drive up prices for all of us. He can never become our senator, but I need your help. We know James Tallarico is going to raise more money than any Democrat in America. So I need everyone watching to go to kenpaxton.com and donate right now and support this campaign. Every Democrat, and I would say every Republican, knows that if we lose this state, if Republicans lose this state, we lose the country. Amen. But I truly believe that together, not only will we win this race, but we can ensure that America's best days are ahead of us. Yes. You see, I'm not just running against the Democrats, I'm running to deliver for you, just as I have as Attorney General. I'm running to lower your cost of living because you deserve to be able to buy a home, afford groceries, and have a high quality of health care without being forced to stay up at night worrying about how you're going to pay your monthly premium or pay off your debt. In the Senate, I'll support President Trump's America First agenda and finally secure our nation's elections by passing the Save America Act. I've taken on big food and big pharma as Attorney General. And I'm going to continue doing that in the Senate because making America healthy again is critical for our nation's future. As Attorney General, I've sued some of the largest companies in the world like Netflix, Snapchat, and Roblox for taking advantage of our kids by exposing them to dangerous, addictive material. In Washington, I will not stop fighting to protect Texas children from big tech hurting our kids. We live in dangerous times, and that's exactly why I'll support our military and be ready to confront the threat from Communist China, which is our #1 geopolitical enemy. Just a few weeks ago, I helped establish the first ever detransition clinic in the country at Texas Children's Hospital. This will help kids reverse the damage caused by radical doctors who tried to transition them. And in the Senate, I will never back down from taking on the woke mob. I've also seen firsthand how bad judges can destroy our freedom and force a liberal agenda on Texas. That's why I will be dedicated to confirming judges who will uphold and defend the Constitution. So now it's time to finish this, Texas. We have until November to come together and bring as many people into this campaign as possible, defeat James Tallarico, and deliver for our state. Yes. I can't thank you enough for your support and your hard work and your vote. Thank you for making history. God bless you, God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. After a public service career lasting more than 4 decades and 18 consecutive campaign wins, tonight we've come up short in this primary runoff. You know, a few years ago, I had a friend of mine say, You know what makes God laugh? He said, when we make plans. I've spent most of my time in the Senate building the Republican Party in Texas and in the U.S. Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it. Tonight I'm joined up here by three women who mean everything to me, and without whom I never would have enjoyed the incredible ride and public service career that I've had for many, many years. Of course, my wife Sandy, of 46 years and counting, and then our daughters Danley and Haley, of whom I'm enormously proud, and they mean everything to me. Politics is hard on families, especially, but I believe, and I know my family believes, that public service is an honorable calling. Serving others is a high purpose. And while much about politics is ugly, we choose to serve through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, we could not have run this race without an outstanding campaign team that has served me so well through so many campaigns, truly the finest I've ever worked with. To Rob, Mayanne, and Andy, and the entire campaign team who worked tirelessly and gave everything they had, and who believed in me, I want to express my gratitude. Of course, I want to thank my U.S. Senate staff, ably led in Washington, D.C. by Drew, and in Texas by David. You work hard for 32 million Texans every day that I'm honored to represent, with long hours, high stress, and job uncertainty. I want to express my gratitude to my staff for their incredible professionalism and dedication to the 32 million people of Texas that I'm honored to represent. To everyone who's worked with me, alongside of me for all these many years, I just want to say thank you. And then to my supporters in this campaign, more than 1,000 current and former elected official endorsements, more than 30 statewide organizations, to every financial supporter, every volunteer, everyone who voted for me in this election, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tonight I'm reminded of something Teddy Roosevelt said in 1910. He said, "It's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and blood and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." A number of years ago, up in West Texas, that's not the region, that's the city, where there was a terrible catastrophe, the county commissioner up there said something that stuck with me all these years. He said, "Being a Texan doesn't describe where you're from. It describes who your family is." And for the past 2.5 decades, I have represented this family in the United States Senate. During that time, I helped write and pass a number of historic tax reform bills, focus on building our military for tomorrow, helping put hundreds of conservative judges on the federal bench, work to take Washington's boot off the necks of Texas job creators and helped tackle some of our nation's most challenging problems. In this runoff election, approximately 8% of registered voters made their voices heard. And of that 8% who voted, roughly 60% said they were ready for a different direction. Another reminder that those who show up decide for those who do not. There's a simple rule in elections, you've heard me say it before, and that is the candidate who gets the most votes wins. The party in the majority gets to govern, and my hope is to keep my party in power for generations. I am an optimist by nature, which is just another way of saying I am a Texan. Yesterday when I was in San Antonio, where I stood alongside of 109 students who had been admitted to service academies for this upcoming year, this was the 20th time that we've had this academy send-off, and it remains my favorite event of the year, because these young men and women, the leaders of our military and our communities in our nation tomorrow, give me great hope and optimism for our future. Well, a scripture verse comes to mind as well, where the Apostle Paul said, I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I've kept the faith. Over the next 7 months, of my service in the United States Senate, I intend to continue my work to help make this nation a better place for all Texans and all Americans. Thank you very much, and may God bless Texas, and may He continue to bless the United States of America.
Senator Cornyn.
I'll have more to say later.
All right, guys, make a hole, please. Make a
Still
hole.
have concerns about
Coming
Ken
through.
Paxton?
Make a hole.
Okay, I don't have a mic, so y'all just have to hear me. Come on up here, John. And brother. Where's Fahad? Where's Fahad? Yo, come on over here. Come on over here. Come on this side. Yeah. Brother, come over here. Where's Councilman Fahad? Come on, Zishan. Fahad? Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I am not here to say the election's over. It's not. Okay? We're still counting Election Day votes. But it looks good. And I'm looking forward to when it's finally over. Because the truth is, I think we've all had enough of primary season. When Donald Trump and the Republican Party are eviscerating our rights and our Constitution, making life unaffordable for working people, starting wars out of nowhere, we need to move on from talking about what's going on in the Democratic Party and start talking about what they've been doing. These folks, I talked to a voter today, and I just said, I'm just calling you to encourage you to vote. I think she thought I was AI at first. And I told her, listen, these are the reasons I think you should vote. And she said, I hope y'all just do something about how much everything costs. She said, I can't afford to fill my gas tank. She said, if I take $50 to the grocery store, I can't get enough for my family to eat. And I was just thinking, these elections matter, but what we really have to do is get to the work that these folks need us to do. Because there are people out there who are struggling. There are people out there who are looking for somebody who might care. And I do. And I know y'all do. We know what's at stake. A couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court thought that they could go ahead and eliminate the ability for us to elect candidates of our choosing in the South. They struck down what was the remaining portions of the Voting Rights Act. And as a voting rights lawyer, I took that personally. But I also think that it's time for us to no longer live off the accomplishments of the civil rights movement or past generations who fought for our rights. It's time for us to fight for those rights, right? And I gotta tell you, I feel like we're heading for a good election in November, right? But here in the Democratic Party, we also have to make sure we make very clear who we stand for. And in this election, that's why I'm so happy to be here at the CWA Hall and to have the support. And to have the support of the AFL-CIO and my brothers and sisters in labor. Because the Democratic Party, if we stand for anything, it has to be for working people. It has to be for opportunity, for the idea that if you work hard and you play by the rules, that you should be able to get ahead. It's a very simple promise, but it's one that has been broken. I can't tell folks now that this system is fair to them. I can't tell them that. If you feel like it's rigged, that's because it has been. And we have to unrig it. I've been going all around our city and our area to places that you wouldn't normally campaign. Boxing matches, right, Renee? Construction sites, grocery stores, restaurants, anywhere where working people are, to talk to them about what's going on in their lives. And they know Donald Trump is corrupt, and they know that he's not on their side, but they're wondering if the Democratic Party is too. So I'm here tonight to say the Democratic Party will stand with working people in this election and going forward. That's what we stand for. We're going to stand up when they want to spend your tax dollars dropping bombs in the Middle East. I've had enough of this nonsense, of us thinking we're going to solve all of our problems just by attacking people. That's not foreign policy. That's being a bully. We're going to stand up for the idea that diversity is a good thing. Right? That it makes us better. We're stronger because of how diverse we are. North Texas is strong because of what we look like. But it's been under attack. And I have so many people that I want to thank. I can't say thank you for making sure that we won, because we're not there yet. But I have a lot of people I want to thank. And I want to thank, first of all, my excellent campaign team. If y'all have had any interaction, to my campaign manager, Shad. To the whole team, y'all got to bear with me because I'm going to say their names. Nicole, Jane, Sonia, Kennedy, Dexter, Chase, Anna, Paige, Ed, and Jasmine, and our great field team for knocking on the door. I want to thank Representative Retta Bowers for being my friend throughout this whole thing, my church member, and her son, John Bowers. I want to thank all of the folks who've been involved in this campaign. To Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for your leadership. You know, Jasmine's not done. And I appreciate her for the voice that she had, both in terms of running for Senate, but also in terms of using her platform to encourage people to stay involved. And I have to tell you that when I got elected in 2018, I forgot to thank my wife. She was standing right next to me. And I thanked everybody else in the room. But I didn't thank Allie. Allie and I have two boys, Jordan and Cameron. They're 7 and 5. All this campaigning and all this stuff has made it hard for us sometimes. And she's held it together on the home front and kept me sane. And I can't thank her enough. She's at home with our kids right now. And some of y'all have heard me say this, but I carry 2 rocks with me everywhere I go. My boys are kind of funny. They collect rocks. And they bring them to me. And I have like a whole collection of rocks at home. And they're just normal rocks. They're not special rocks. But they thought they were special, and they brought them home. And so I carry these 2 little rocks with me everywhere I go. And I tell my boys that whenever I'm not with them, I have my rocks with me so that I'm carrying some of them with me. And my message to y'all in this time where everything seems dark, where you feel like you see progress going backwards, where you feel like nobody cares or sees you, that your government is attacking you, that we have an out-of-control ICE terrorizing our communities, that when we have a president who just talks about himself with no mention of the greater good or the broader interest, to remember your 2 rocks, that there's something that motivates you to believe in our society, to believe in our community, to believe in your family, to believe that we can do better than this. Don't let them get you down. They want us to believe there's nothing we can do about this. But when we beat them in November and we take back the Congress, we're going to hold them accountable. I'm telling you. I want to see butts in seats. I want to see hearings. I want to see investigations. I want to see us hold them accountable. They've been breaking the law. And we're going to make sure folks know about it. And here in North Texas, if they come into Dallas or they come into these communities, I want them to know that I'm going to be watching. Yes. And that if you violate my people's civil rights, I will be there to fight you every step of the way. You hear me? Because they think we're going to go back. And we ain't going back. We're not going back to counting jelly beans in a jar or bubbles on a bar of soap. We're not going back to ask for permission to be involved in our democracy. We're not going back. And this election here in November, we're going to stand up to them. Are y'all ready? Yeah. You fired up? Yeah. You ready to go? Yeah. Fired up? Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much to everyone who's been on this journey. I've had the great privilege to serve North Texas for 8 years. This, we're not happy with how the votes came out so far. We're waiting on election night. We had some strong support at the polls, but if it doesn't turn out our way, I'm going to congratulate Mr. Allred. I'm Team Democrat. I want to win in November. I want our slate to win in November, and that is what we have to do. So, I want to thank my team. They're amazing. They've been with me the whole time. But we're going to wait for the votes to come in. I'm a strong believer that every vote counts. We've worked really hard, and I'm really proud of the campaign that we've run. But more importantly, I'm really proud of the record that we've achieved during the 8 years I've had a chance to serve. Not everybody gets a chance to do this. And, redistricting is a bitch. And it's had its intended consequence where none of the current incumbent members are likely to return to Congress here in North Texas. And so the Republicans, we cannot let them win in November. We have to double down as Democrats. We have to come together and unify behind our ticket because that's who we are. We can't have squabbling. We can't have hard feelings. We all have to move on because what is at stake for the values that we share is far too great than to get mired in petty grievances. So I am going to do everything I can to make sure my friend Nathan Johnson is the next Attorney General. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure Gina Linda Hinojosa as our next governor. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure James Talarico is our next senator. So we'll all have to join together. But now it's time to have a cocktail. We're going to wait for Election Day returns. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey, who's been part of this ride. It's been a hell of a ride. Being a Texas Democrat, I got to say, in the state legislature and in Congress. But when I was contemplating running for this seat in 2024, I remember having a conversation with my dad. And he goes, honey, you're going to regret it if you never try. And I have no regrets. Thank you.
It is election night in Texas and several big races have been called. Some candidates will move on to the general election this fall, and for others, it's the end of the road. President Trump endorsed Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton a week ago, and he won the Republican nomination, defeating Senator John Cornyn, who's held that seat for 24 years. We'll have team coverage and reaction in a moment. But first, a live look outside in Fort Worth where storms could be moving in soon. Chief Meteorologist Pete Delka shows us what to expect overnight.
Well, Chris, we do have some thunderstorms out there right now. None of these thunderstorms are severe, but certainly some brief heavy rain, some lightning, and maybe some 20 to 30 mile-an-hour winds. They're moving right through the heart of the Metroplex right now. They've moved up from parts of Johnson and Ellis County, now into Dallas and Tarrant County, just moving directly up toward DFW Airport itself. So we have some non-severe thunderstorms out there at this moment. That's the radar right now. You can see they've moved in from West Texas. It all started early this morning, well to the west of Dallas, Fort Worth. There's the line of storms that's moved in right there. There's where they'll be at midnight. We keep rain around on and off. This is not 100% coverage, but at least 50% of us see rain overnight. Maybe a little bit of rain early tomorrow morning to start, and that's where we begin. Tomorrow at 67 degrees, about 20% of us see rain during the morning, 10% during the afternoon. Only a high tomorrow of 84 degrees. I'll be back in a few minutes. I have more rain in my forecast. Your 14-day forecast as well coming up.
Tonight in Texas, political careers on the line, big names, high stakes. John Cornyn versus Ken Paxton. Paxton won the president's endorsement. Will Republican voters now follow? Plus the race to replace Paxton as Texas Attorney General. On the right, Mays Middleton versus Chip Roy. On the left, Nathan Johnson versus Joe Jaworski. Democrats in Dallas will also decide, keep Julie Johnson in Congress or send Colin Allred back to Washington. In Houston, a political generation gap. Veteran Congressman Al Green fighting to hold off freshman Congressman Christian Menifee. Plus, runoff results in key races for Congress, Lieutenant Governor, and the Railroad Commission. Polls are closing across the state, and this is where Texas turns for election 2026.
In fact, let's get some insight on tonight's election results. Senior political reporter Jason Whiteley just finished anchoring our election show on WFAA+. What's your big takeaway?
You know, these are usually long nights we have. We talk about the counting going way into the night. Not tonight. This thing was wrapped up really in the first 20 to 25 minutes. Big night for MAGA Republicans. That's the huge takeaway. Ken Paxton wins, sends John Cornyn into retirement. Think about this. Cornyn has represented Texas in the U.S. Senate for 24 years.
I know.
He will not go back for a fifth term. Voters said no way at all. Paxton, there was 64% of the vote with 80% of the precincts reporting. Cornyn was almost emotional tonight when he gave a concession speech to Paxton. It was stunning tonight. This is a changing of the guard in the Republican Party. And Chris, you've been around long enough to know this. Cornyn was the last Reagan-Bush Republican elected official in Texas still standing. Tonight, the Republican Party of Texas has made the full shift to MAGA Republicans with this win tonight by Ken Paxton.
All right, Jason, you know, we have crews with both candidates. Let's start with Jobin Puneker with the Paxton campaign in Plano.
Yeah, Chris, there were obviously a lot of happy people in this building. They expected a close race. It was not that. They expected a long night. It was not that either. Obviously a huge night for MAGA Republicans, as Jason said, and who Paxton calls Paxton Patriots. Now, many of the people we spoke would say it was time for a change from Senator Cornyn. They felt Ken Paxton would be the fighter in Washington that they needed. He walked out to a large ovation. Close to 400 people showed up to this event in Plano. Paxton, you know, is not exactly an engaging speaker. There were times we felt this room really wanted to erupt but didn't. But of course, his message did resonate here. He thanked President Trump for his endorsement. He talked about what he feels are the threats from the left, the threats to democracy. He said he'll take on the woke mob. That energized the crowd a little bit. Paxton now turns his attention to November and James Tallarico.
Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of the fight to preserve every value we hold dear. The future of Texas and the future of America is on the line, and I intend to do everything I can to expand our movement. I've won 3 statewide elections because I know how critical it is for our party to come together, and that's what we must do now. Without a shadow of a doubt, I will be the Democrats' #1 target in November.
But there's been a lot of division.
Obviously, in his speech, later on in his speech, Paxton did say that he was thankful and grateful to Senator Cornyn for his service to the country, his service to Texas as well. Obviously, Paxton will need to convince Cornyn's base by November. And that's where we join our colleague, Teresa Woodard, who is with Cornyn's camp.
Yeah, Jobin, Senator Cornyn did not explicitly come out and publicly endorse Ken Paxton tonight by any means. He did, however, make it clear that he plans to support all the Republicans up and down the ballot come November. But what a stunning headline tonight. A 4-term Republican senator defeated in a Republican primary in a state still dominated by Republican politics. The senator was with his wife and his 2 daughters and his team as he quietly came into a hotel conference room down here in Austin. After 18 straight election victories, this loss means the end of a 42-year-long career in Texas politics. First elected district judge in 1984, then to the Texas Supreme Court, then Texas Attorney General, then U.S. Senator in 2002. He was running for a 5th term, but Texas voters did not give it to him. Instead, the Trump-endorsed Ken Paxton won after that nasty campaign, but Cornyn pledging to work to hold on to the Republican majority.
A simple rule in elections, you've heard me say it before, and that is the candidate who gets the most votes wins. The party in the majority gets to govern, and my hope is to keep my party in power for generations.
I think one big question is, will we see Cornyn publicly endorsing Ken Paxton, maybe even campaigning for him or with him? He did not take questions from the media tonight, but when he was finishing his remarks, one journalist did holler at him and say, will you support Ken Paxton? Jason, Chris, the only thing he said was, I'll have more to say later. We'll send it back to you up in Dallas.
Teresa, thanks a lot for that. The other thing to watch here tonight, too, Chris, is over the next 7 months, with the time remaining that Cornyn has in office, does he back the president? I asked Cornyn today before polls closed, did you feel betrayed at all that Paxton got the endorsement from the president? And Cornyn said he did not feel betrayed, but after tonight's stunning defeat, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with how Cornyn votes, whether he backs the president in the next few months.
Yeah, with the margins so slim
Sure.
right now in Congress, that is something to keep an eye on. We're also tracking another high-profile race on the Democratic side.
Since we came on the air here in the last 4 or 5 minutes, the Associated Press has just called the race for Colin Allred against Julie Johnson. This is for the Democratic nomination to House District 33. This is a race really that Democrats have really been fighting over. It's gotten really bitter here lately.
Yeah, Republicans redrew the boundaries of this district at President Trump's request. It covers this meandering swath of Fort Worth, touches Farmers Branch, and back down into West Dallas.
Results show that Allred has won the race here. He has 8,400 votes, 55% of the vote to 45%. That was the old district there, Chris, I think we just saw. The new district is solely in Dallas County here, but Colin Allred defeating an incumbent Congresswoman, Julie Johnson. Julie Johnson, the first LGBTQ member of Congress from the South. But it looks like Colin Allred is going to be the Democratic nominee for this seat. This is a Democratic seat, so Republicans will be running against him, but this is going to be something that Democrats likely will be able to pull off this fall. But let's get out to Kevin Reese, who's been with the Allred campaign all evening tonight. Kevin?
Yeah, and Mr. Allred made an appearance here about 45 minutes ago. You can see behind me that he has left. His entire watch party has left as well. And even though it has been called now by the Associated Press, he did not declare victory in his speech, although he said with a 10% differential that the numbers are looking good. And in his speech to the watch party here, he already is moving his conversation to the fight against the Republican Party. He was very energized, and this is part of what he had to say about the fight ahead for him.
But when we beat them in November and we take back the Congress, we're going to hold them accountable. I'm telling you. I want to see butts in seats. I want to see hearings. I want to see investigations. I want to see us hold them accountable. They've been breaking the law. And we're going to make sure folks know about it. And here in North Texas, if they come into Dallas or they come into these communities, I want them to know that I'm going to be watching. Yeah. And that if you violate my people's civil rights, I will be there to fight you every step of the way. You hear me?
So a fiery, energetic speech from him, but again, he did not officially declare victory. He said maybe tomorrow morning we will hear from him. Certainly will not hear from him tonight. Meanwhile, the Julie Johnson race, my colleague Brittany Costello is following that race, where we hear that she has not yet conceded either. Brittany?
Right, Kevin. We heard from Congresswoman Julie Johnson just a couple of hours ago. At that time, she did not concede the race, but her speech was emotional. She started by thanking her supporters, but she did recognize the gap. And then she also pledged to support the Democratic ticket, but also wants to wait for the numbers to come in. She told supporters just a couple of hours ago, if it does not go her way, she will accept that. She says it's been a pleasure serving North Texans. She believes redistricting is to blame.
It's had its intended consequence where none of the current incumbent members are likely to return to Congress here in North Texas. And so the Republicans, we cannot let them win in November. We have to double down as Democrats. We have to come together and unify behind our ticket.
Again, we do not expect to hear from her again tonight, and you heard straight from her, she does plan to support the Democratic ticket. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Brittany. Colin Allred's opponent is being decided tonight on the Republican side, and the Associated Press has now called it for Patrick David Gillespie, who was facing off against John Sims.
All right, let's bring in Jason Wheeler. He's been on the big board all night watching all these races and the results come in tonight. Let's look at a few of the big races, take them apart, but then all the other big races we've been watching tonight as well.
A very quick word about the marquee race of the night, and that's for the GOP side for the U.S. Senate race. A lot has been said about this. I just want to point out the overwhelming nature of this. There are about 28,000 votes difference between these two in the primary just less than 3 months ago. Tonight, 342,000 votes separating them. Ken Paxton just running the table. John Cornyn only picking up, edging him out in 3 counties in Texas. One of them, a tiny one, where he has 6 votes and Paxton has 2. Beyond that, it's Travis County and Dallas County. That's all he took tonight.
Wow. The other big news tonight is on the Republican side for Attorney General.
Yeah, this is, of course, to replace Ken Paxton. Mays Middleton called on the GOP side as the winner. He'll be taking on Nathan Johnson, the senator from the Dallas area, and that's no surprise. This kind of mirrors what we saw in the primary a couple of months ago. That should be an interesting one. But again, on the Republican side, the MAGA candidate, just like we saw in the Senate race, just like we're also seeing in the railroad commissioner race. This one has tightened significantly as we've gone through the night. About 21,500 votes separate them now. Jim Wright is the incumbent, was supported by all the power structures in Austin. Beau French, very controversial, very MAGA candidate. And again, it just shows that the MAGA has done very well here in Texas tonight.
Indeed, so there are a few more Democratic races we want to make sure we hit as well.
Yeah, we want to hit this one. This is District 18 down in the Houston area. You might wonder, well, why are you watching that one very closely? This is a generational change. It also just says that Democrats were ready to move on. Al Green has been there forever, has all the name recognition in the world, but again, a younger face will now take over in that district as well. And then lastly, we'll just point out Lieutenant Governor on the Democrat side, Vicki Goodwin. She will take on Dan Patrick, who will be a tough opponent to beat. Big war chest there.
It was an early night to bottom line here. Headline for you, Chris. Early night for so many of these races. The Beau French Railroad Commission race against Jim Wright is one we are still watching tonight. I'll be back on daybreak with the latest results on that.
Yeah, speaking of, thanks guys. Our team's going to be here all night gathering the very latest results. Again, look for Jason tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. with new reaction and analysis. Coming up, we'll get you up to speed on some of tonight's other big stories. New details on a deadly shooting at a short-term rental property in Dallas.